I'm going to go ahead and get started then. It's about 10 after. We might have a couple more folks trickle in, just like that was definitely our experience yesterday, which is fine. Feel free to save your friends a seat, and we'll get them caught up. So welcome. We're so excited y'all are here. You are in recruiting part 1 training. This is HR, business partner, and ops specialist training. Hopefully everybody's in the right spots. We are, we'll start with some introductions and then we'll go through our agenda and kind of talk through what today is going to look like. We are operating under the assumption that you all know what Workday is, that you have been in Workday maybe a little bit, you've heard about Workday, you've received some communications, you know about your role as we head into go live as a service delivery model member for your unit. So we're making some assumptions, but then others, we're going to really start with some basics. So hopefully this will be a really good overview. Again, if I flip back, this is part 1 of 5 for all of you. So we started yesterday part 1 with a different group. So all week this week we're doing part 1. So your friends and other units were here yesterday. We've got a couple more tomorrow, another one on Thursday, getting through all of our HR business partners and specialists. And then next week you'll come for part 2 all the way through 5. So we're really going through an employee life cycle, which is kind of fun, starting all the way from an open position, a vacant position, posting a job, getting candidates to apply, and then eventually hiring a candidate and going through the rest of the employee life cycle. So super exciting. At least I think it's exciting. I love Workday HR. So my name is Tanya Gray. I am from Cognizant, which is BYU's Workday implementation partner. So I'm not a BYU employee. I am a contractor, but have had the opportunity to work with the team since the beginning of the project, which was like March 2022, which is crazy that we're already towards the end. I live just north of Houston, Texas, so I will say y'all a lot because it's just easier, and I kind of think it's fun. So. So I'll go ahead and let Lauren introduce herself, also from Cognizant.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Marriott. I was a BYU student, so it's super fun to be here. I also work for Cognizant now, and I've been working on this project, from the start. I live in Davis, California, so close to Sacramento, so super happy to be here.
Awesome. And we have some fabulous experts that assist us with this training and content, which is great. So I'll let Catherine introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Catherine Hendricks. I'm manager of the new recruiting office. You guys are going to love being trained by Tanya and Lauren. They're awesome. We've been trained by them also. I just wanted to give you just a quick introduction about what's happening to our office. Right now, we're currently staff employment where we do contracts, I-9s, a lot of employment related things. But with this switch to Workday, we're becoming a full recruiting resource, and that's because of the many great things that we can do within Workday. So we're super excited to be able to support you in recruiting, and that's it. I look forward to working with you.
Awesome. Wonderful. We also have Niche on this slide. She's not in here right now, but she might pop in later. I think you all know Lindsay, right? Did you want to say anything, Lindsay?
Yeah.
I'll give you the floor.
Couple of things. All right. By raise of hand, who knows who I am? Just kidding. There's a lot of you. If you are receiving any emails from Lindsay or from Workday Training, most likely I had a hand in that, so I'm sorry. Who here attended the? Oh no, it's like the Wednesday session last week, the collaborative information session. Really, really tall. Okay. We're like 92%. Oh, okay. 95%. That information, hopefully, there was a lot in that meeting. I was gone last week, so I apologize. We are going to be sending that out to everyone. It'll have a lot of information. Please take the time to go through it. It's going to be very informative for you guys as collaborative units, which you all are. In that session, we covered a document that looked like this. It's called the HR Service Delivery Model document there. It shows how you guys are going to be interacting as a collaborative unit with the centralized HR services. I will say that as someone in this room, your assignment as an operations specialist or supervisor or a business partner, you guys are now the experts in your area. Have you always been the experts in your area? Yes. What does that mean now? It means we're holding you guys to a higher level of understanding of the system so that you guys are able to better support your areas. That doesn't mean that you can't rely on the centralized HR services. Catherine Hendricks is going to be a huge resource to you for any recruiting needs. And then you'll be able to meet others week by week. We will have the other centralized service representatives in the room. We're also, if you're a business partner, if you know you're a business partner, will you raise your hand? Okay, your HR business partner, I think we have 3, is that right? Only one on this side? Okay. Who are we missing? We should have, if you're from life sciences, raise your hand. Okay, life sciences, engineering. Math, the really, really long name for math.
Computing.
Okay. Computational, mathematical, physical science, something. And then religion. Okay. Yeah, okay. So we should have 4 business partners. We'll follow up, that's okay. If you have any questions about what your role is, what your title is as an operations specialist or an operations supervisor, go to your business partner. Will they know the answer to every question? No, but they're a great start. I'm pushing people to those business partners. I'm sorry you raised your hand. Okay, which area are you guys? Life sciences. Hold on.
We have a name, right?
Or HR. Okay, I have Russ Nielsen as doing both, but it could be that they're doing a replacement for HR side. Okay, in the meantime, go see Russ Nielsen. And he'll love that I told you that. Sorry,
do we know what hobbies measures are?
if you are here in this room, you are one of those 3. An operations specialist, an operations supervisor, or a business partner. If you don't know if you're a business partner, you're not one. You are somewhere in that operation. You are in the right space. You are in the right room, the right time. Feel good about where you are. But if you have questions about what your designation is, what your title is, please go talk to your business partner. Go talk to Russ Nielsen. There will be the information packet that we promised last week will be sent out this week. It'll have an org chart of each of your areas that was sent to us back in February. It will probably need to be amended. There's been a lot of shuffling going on. But your designation, your new title will be on there. When you guys log into the Workday Training tenant today, your bottom screen is just mirroring what's up here. So you don't have to keep crooking your neck. That bottom screen is exactly what the trainers are going to be doing. You'll be able to see their mouse and everything. That top screen is for you. You should have 2 pages open. Well, I guess we'll get there. You should at least have the Workday. You should at least have the Workday Training tenant open. There was a blue login screen with an SSO option. You can go ahead and click on that. If you guys have any problems with logging into the tenant, just raise your hand. We have people around the room who can come help. As we are running through training, if you are unable to see something or do something, raise your hand. We'll take a note. Keep following along. We'll have you guys catch up with it. And then one last plug. I know we've got to get pushed into training. If there are people in your unit, and by unit it's your college or your division, so life sciences, engineering, in your unit who are supposed to be here who are not. We totally understand schedules could not allow for everyone to attend the same sessions at the same time. If they can in the future, great. Encourage them to do that. But their ability to catch up on the trainings will be partially on them to go to the training hub, which we'll talk about, and then partially on your unit. Work as a team. Do some of these activities outside of these trainings. The more, I know that's asking a lot, but the more time that you guys can commit now, the easier everyone's lives will be in December and January. So really, really take advantage of the time of being here. If you have questions, raise your hand. If it's about Workday, if it's not about Workday and it's about the new service delivery model, talk to your business partner. Okay, any questions? Awesome. Okay, take it away, Tanya.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Sure.
So all of our trainings up to this point, when we've all met together, have been all talking about HR from a perspective of hiring faculty, staff, admin, things like that. But nothing's really been said about the student side of it. Will we also be learning about student employment? Because for us, that's the majority of our course.
Absolutely, yep. So what we're going to start today, we'll continue, as Lindsay just mentioned, the activities we start today, we're going to build upon every week. So the main, we are trying to keep it consistent just to make sure everybody can follow along and that we're not doing 5 scenarios at once.
Yeah.
So we are going to be recruiting for and hiring a staff, a full-time staff. But next week, keep me honest, next week, we're going to talk specifically about faculty hiring and student hiring. So yes, you will definitely get that content as well. Awesome. Any other questions as we get going? Okay. So I already kind of talked about this a little bit today. We're really focusing on that beginning piece, having your vacant positions and starting that job rec. We're going to start with just some basic Workday navigation, core concepts. We'll talk about kind of some terminology. What does Workday consider employee types and worker types? What is job architecture? And then we'll get into the fun recruiting, what I think is fun, recruiting piece of creating the job requisition, posting the job, taking a look at our career sites, and then hopefully we'll have time for you all to apply to a job as an applicant. We will take breaks as well, for sure. If I keep going, sometimes I get really excited and keep going, so just flag me down if everybody needs a break. And yesterday we finished a little bit early, so I don't anticipate we're going to go quite until 5. We'll make sure, hopefully by 4:30 we'll be done. Safe Harbor, just remember while we are far into this project, almost rounding the corner to go live, we're still not live yet. So things are subject to change slightly. Are they going to change drastically? Absolutely not. But there could be small tweaks. So just Safe Harbor, not live until we're live. And then some of these notes, Lindsay just mentioned when she was chatting. So you are completing tasks today in your role as either an HR business partner or an operations specialist. While in your role, you might be supporting a subset of employees, but you might have security access to more than just that subset. So for example, if within your department, so let's use life sciences, they're in here, right? Life sciences? Life sciences, okay. So life sciences probably has, 10 departments within it, or different, majors, minors, academic areas within it. So maybe one operations specialist is going to cover 3 areas, another operations specialist will cover these 3 areas, so on and so forth. Well, security is a little bit broader. So you might have security access to all 10, but we know operationally within your unit, you're really only going to focus on those 3. So just keep that in mind. We had some people yesterday that were like, oh, I can see a lot. Well, yeah, you can see a lot, but you might not have to use all of, you might have to not have to act upon all of what you have access to. Again, the training activities build upon each other. So we really, really hope that you can complete the activities today. We're here to help you. No trainee left behind is my motto. But if it does end up that maybe you have to step away or anything like that, we do hope that you take the time to get caught up on your own before we come back next week. And then there will be lab sessions that will be scheduled beginning in mid-October in preparation for the service delivery model dress rehearsal. So you heard about that if you were in the meeting last Wednesday. So those lab sessions are really going to be for preparing for that dress rehearsal. All right. You also might have seen this slide. So this is our cutover timeline. You also might have heard it referred to as our transition timeline. So just thinking about it, you know, just kind of taking a step back and thinking about what we're doing over the next couple of months. We're essentially turning off PeopleSoft and turning on Workday, right? So there's a transition period where, well, life still happens, right? You still have HR transactions that need to be processed. But during some specific timeframes, we do need to pause on transacting in PeopleSoft so that when we turn Workday on, we have all of that data available to us in Workday. So there's specific processes and tasks that have specific deadlines or have specific blackout times. If you have not already started receiving communication on this, you will. Very, very specific on who and what and you know, what are the certain dates or timeframes in which we need to stop transacting within PeopleSoft. So just be on the lookout for that. There, you know, again, just a little bit of a transition period between now and when we officially go live in early January. All right. So Lindsay alluded to this. If you are not already, keep your Workday window open. But then just open up another tab and you can go out to the training hub. So that's workday.byu.edu. We just want to make sure everybody has access to that. Once you get there, and actually I can show you, I did not have access to this yesterday, but today I do. Yeah, I think most of them are. I can So it's, whoops, what was it? So workday.byu.edu, and then when you get there, there is a link up on the top that says training, a little drop down. And you're looking for the HR Business Partner and Ops site. Okay. So these are your resources, or this is your kind of one-stop shop for resources, both during the training and then after. So by the end of this week, once we've gotten through all of our sessions, made any little tweaks to these slides, you know, based on feedback and how these sessions have been going, we'll get those slides up there, so they'll be linked. We are in group. You all are group C, so your slides will be out there. The week 1 activity guide is already out there. So if you want, we do have the paper copies, but if you want an electronic copy, you're welcome just to use the one that's out there. It's the same exact thing that's here. And then the check-in survey, which we'll remind you all to do the check-in survey before we leave for the day, and then session video. So of course, we're recording all of these sessions. We'll make sure that's out there by the end of the week so you can go back and reference it. If you keep scrolling down, we also have our job aids. So if you click the link, access job aids here, we have a ton of job aids out there and we're continuing to build them as we prepare for Go Live. So again, we of course encourage you to take notes on whatever you want to take notes on today and as we continue this training, but don't feel like you need to write down every step-by-step process because it's already out there in our job aids. These are truly step-by-step how to complete tasks in Workday. Pretty much everything we go over today and the rest of these 5 weeks will be out there as a job aid. A lot of them are already out there. So please use those. And just, you know, as you think about the next few weeks and months as we prepare for Go Live, I know, you know, if you came to the session last week, you've heard about, you know, a little assessment that we'll take before Go Live, the group dress rehearsal. You can use all of these resources for all of that, right? They're never going away. All right. Oh, yes. Okay. So back up at the top, if you can just, it's this one right here, right? Okay. If you have not already, so you might already have on another tab, you might already have logged into Workday. If not, click this link here. This will take you to your single sign-on to, well, not for me, because I do not have single sign-on, but for you all, it should log you directly into BYU 11. That's the tenant that we're in. So we just want to make sure that everybody can get logged in prior to us really getting into the content and starting our first activity.
having trouble logging into Workday.
Alright, but then just doing a quick double check to make sure. I'm Right, okay, how about your poll? All right, so Lauren's gonna walk around and just make sure everybody's in BYU 11. We're noticed some computers are heading straight to BYU 8, which is another tenant that we were using last week and for some other finance sessions. But everybody else was able to get into Workday? Oh, yes. All right. Okay, so we talked about the training hub. We're all logged into the tenant. Yeah. So the way you can check, if you click in your actual web browser, yes. Yeah, click in there. Yeah, I can't know you first. You're 11, okay. All right. One thing to note that we just want to call out. You can thank all of your friends that came yesterday. We were joking. Yesterday was like day one, the first time we had done this. So we worked out all the kinks yesterday. So a lot of these reminders in the beginning are just things that we got questions on yesterday. This is a training environment, so nothing that we do is affecting the live system. I'm going to demo using fake people. I'm going to go look up Cosmo Cougar, who is an employee in BYU Workday 11. Yesterday we were terminating people to get vacant positions. We're doing something slightly different today, but all that to say, nothing is affecting the live system. And then the inverse of that is that this data was pulled a few months ago, I think actually back in like April, May timeframe. So if you've changed your job, changed your name, changed your benefits, changed, a dependent, all of those little changes that may have happened over the last, say, 5-6 months would not be reflected in this specific copy. So just keep that in mind. You might have people that report to you that really don't report to you or things like that, especially students. I know, students might kind of come and go. You might still have students that were from last semester that still report to you. So just keep that in mind. It's all, this is all just a training environment. And of course, we are getting fresh data load copies before we go live. So everything should be clean, pristine, and up to date come January. All right, so again, that recruit to hire concept is really what we're focusing on this week and then next week. So today we are really going to work, we're going to start over on the left. We're going to talk about positions. We're going to talk about the job catalog and kind of how that structure is going to look like in Workday and how things might be a little bit different from what you see today. We're going to talk about job requisitions. We will create job requisitions. We will talk about job postings, who posts jobs and how they get posted. And then we will also apply as a candidate. So everybody will get to be a fake candidate today and walk through the job application process. And then that's where we'll pick up next week. So next week, we'll kind of finish that recruit to hire process with really going through that candidate life cycle and then eventually hiring our new employee. Okay. But we want to start at the beginning with the Workday homepage. So just by show of hands, who has been in Workday before today? Okay, good. So most people. Okay, great. So you've hopefully done a little bit of navigating around, kind of playing around, just by way of core concepts and basic Workday navigation. This is the Workday homepage. Of course, this screenshot is Cosmo Cougar's homepage, right? So he's logged in as himself. Over on the upper left-hand side, that's where you will see all of your applications that you have access to. this is where, so all the applications and dashboards that you have access to. Applications and dashboards, just a really easy way to navigate to certain tasks and activities within Workday. We'll do a lot of that today and over the next couple of weeks. There we go. The BYU icon in the upper left-hand corner, that will always return you to the home page. So if you're in the middle of a process and you need to just get back to home, back to this screen, you can click the BYU logo and you'll get back to your home page. The search bar is great. We're going to use it a lot today. What I love about Workday is you can navigate to things like 5 different ways usually, right? There's so many different ways you can get to the same spot. You get to decide what you like best. I'm going to show you a lot of different options, but you can always use a search bar. So kind of like Google, if you want to just, if you don't really know where which dashboard to go to create a brand new job requisition, type in create job requisition, and that task will appear. Anything that you have access to in terms of a task will appear if you use that search bar. Notifications and my tasks. So up in the upper right, you'll have a bell icon. Those are your notifications. So those are like FYIs. Nothing you need to act upon. It's just Workday notifying you of, maybe an action that was taken. So maybe you got an absence request approved, or a hire, has completely gone through and you get a notification saying, Cosmo Cougar is officially hired. So the notifications, the items that come to your notifications are just FYIs. It's nothing that you need to act upon. Whereas anything that comes to my tasks is something you do need to act upon. So this is an inbox item. It's going to require your review, your approval, maybe your input before it can actually move along in the process. No, you're fine.
Curious about the search bar, which I love that feature, but what if we don't know what to search for, what the terminology is? Is there a list anywhere of all that info?
Do we have a crosswalk or glossary yet? I can't remember. Not yet. So we will, I believe it's on our list. I might be speaking out of turn. But sometimes we can talk with you all. If, please tell us if, as we're kind of going through this training, you say, oh, this is currently called XYZ. We can make sure that that's all included in a crosswalk for you. I would say you will get very good at just kind of putting in, requisition. If you know that you need to create a requisition, but sometimes Workday likes to be really tricky. Sometimes it's create job requisition. Sometimes it's start job requisition, or it might be find job requisition, and you're not quite sure which one you actually need. So you'll kind of like Google, you can just play around with it a little bit. It is predictive, so you can just type in a couple letters and it'll pull up everything that you have access to based on your security.
So, is there a page just HR?
No. There's certain applications that are just technically HR, like absence would be, like, you consider that finance. Anything regarding requisition, like your requisition hub or your recruiting dashboard would be considered HR, but there's not really an HR page because there's so many different modules. Yeah. Other questions? All right, so my tasks, again, anything you need to act upon. So if it's in your inbox or my tasks, it means you need to do something. And then in the far upper right-hand corner, you should see your photo. That is your profile. So we'll look at your worker profile here in just a minute. You can also get to different account options from that drop-down. So if you wanted Workday to display in another language, you can change your language settings if you prefer. In kind of the center of the screen are just some fun, handy tips, tools, different ways to navigate to your inbox and to different announcements. So you have an inbox preview kind of right at the top. So your first couple of items that are in your inbox will show up right away when you open up Workday. Any delivered task suggestions. So Workday does dabble a little in AI. So you might get some delivered tasks based on, you haven't updated your address in a long time. Maybe you need to update your address or your phone number. This one says your team has upcoming absences. So as a manager, we use Workday at Cognizant, and I love that if I have a direct report that has a birthday or an anniversary coming up in the next 2 weeks, I get a little pop-up when I log into Workday that tells me that Lauren might have a birthday in 2 weeks, which she doesn't, right? Okay. But if she did, then it might pop up for me. In the upper right, bottom left, your frequently used application. So if there's an application that you use a lot, it's going to show up there. And again, as you use Workday, that's going to become more and more familiar to you. And then your commonly initiated tasks. So your top apps, you can actually configure. So if there are apps that you use all the time and they're not showing up, you're having to go to your menu and kind of scroll down, you can configure those to show up for you on your top apps. And then your quick tasks, that is driven by Workday. So Workday will see you go to the expenses module a lot. You do a lot of expense reports. So Workday will create expense report as a button there for you to use. Any questions on the homepage before we move on? Okay. People behind the little pillar. Okay, so we mentioned My Tasks. So you might hear people call this your inbox. Workday called it an inbox for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden changed it to My Tasks. But again, this is everything requiring your action. So my thought is that you all as HR business partners or operations specialists, you're going to be in Workday every day, right? It's going to be just kind of open in the background probably, or something that you log into multiple times a day. So your My Tasks should always be checked. You should, I believe, be receiving an email notification for certain cases if you do have something to approve or review. So that should come to your Outlook as well. But always a good idea, just first thing you should do when you log into Workday, check to see what is there. Your archive tab, we're going to use a lot, so I'll demonstrate this quite a bit. If you have reviewed something or approved something or submitted something and it's following the business process, which we'll talk about in just a second. So predetermined workflow where you might initiate and then it'll route to somebody somebody designated in a certain role to then review and approve next. You can always look at your archive tab to determine whose desk is this sitting on. So whose inbox is this currently sitting on? Before it is finalized, fully approved, or complete in Workday. So the archive tab, very, very helpful. I use it all the time. And you'll see it. We'll use it a lot today and then ongoing throughout this training. Oops. All right, the related actions button. This is lovingly referred to sometimes as the Twinkie because it looks like a Twinkie. You can hover next to certain items or what Workday calls objects, and you will find this related actions button. And it's simply another way to navigate within Workday. So objects can be candidates, employees, organizations, other things as well. Basically anything that is blue and hyperlinked. So in this example, you see Cosmo Cougar, his name down at the bottom is hyperlinked. So in this instance, I maybe searched Cosmo's name in the search bar, and then he popped up in my search results. I can either click his hyperlinked name to go to his profile, which we'll all do in just a second, and then navigate through some of his data and information on his profile. I can also complete actions from his profile, or I can click that related actions button and I will get a drop down of all of the actions I can take on Cosmo, meaning I might be able to initiate a termination. I might be able to initiate a transfer or some kind of promotion. I might be able to enter time for him. That's all going to be based on your security access. But I can navigate, I can use that related actions button, the Twinkie, to complete actions directly from his name. Now, I also, we like to coin the phrase in Workday, if it's blue, you can do, which means any blue hyperlink you can click on, always get to more information. So that includes things that come up on your search bar. This will include drilling down into reports. Just know if it's blue, if it's hyperlinked, you can do. All right. Any questions as I get into Workday? Yeah.
I forget. So when we're on our desktop, can we go to the website, or is there a desktop application?
That is a very good question. Do you know the answer to that? Do you know how they're going to get to Workday at Go Live?
besides going to workday.byu.edu.
Yeah, so
Like,
is there,
is
do
it
you all
gonna be
have
an
like a, do you have a single sign-on page with an app list currently?
I don't know. I would imagine it would be a single sign-on.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you'll have a phone, mobile app, right?
Yep, there's a mobile app. Yep. So good question. Well, I'm sure there is an answer. I just don't specifically know it. So we'll jot that down and then we can share that with you. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, so I am logged in as Harper HR. I just want to show you some of the features that we just talked about. Now, a couple of things. So now we're getting into Workday, so we'll do demos and then we'll kind of give you some time to do activities. Some of these, I am totally fine if you just want to do them with me. So like this is one, we're just going to kind of poke around in Workday. You all can do this logged in as yourself. I will also give you a couple minutes when I'm done, so if you wanted to take some more time with it. So again, we're on, what are we on? 1.1, just exploring the Workday homepage. Other of the activities as we get later into the training today are, I would say, maybe a little bit more complicated. So we might ask, okay, let's just watch the demo so we can talk through it, and then we'll give you an opportunity to complete the activity, and we'll kind of walk around and help. So, but for this one, you're welcome just to follow along in the tenant if you'd like. So I'm in as Harper HR. Clearly, I'm a fictional HR character in my little cast of characters here in this tenant. Starting from the upper left, so this is your menu drop down. So these are all of the different applications that you have access to. What I have access to might look different than what you have access to. So for training purposes, we're building a lot of training materials and conducting a lot of these training courses. Harper HR is kind of all powerful, so she has a lot of HR access. So she might have applications that you don't see on yours, which is totally fine. Here in the upper left, this is your home button. So I can navigate anywhere, anywhere in Workday. I'm just going to click this update contact info link just to kind of show you this. I know where things are going a little bit slow. Just me? Anybody else able to navigate in Workday? Okay, it's just me. Oh, it's because I'm in the SSO link. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. All right, now we're in business. Okay. So I can navigate anywhere in Workday. And if I want to go back to the home page, I can just click this BYU icon and go directly back to my home page. Search bar here up in the upper, well, right up in the middle, middle top of your screen. So again, you can kind of think of this as Google. It's got predictive text meaning or predictive features. So I can start typing something in, let's say job requisition, and then hit enter. And it's going to pull up all of the different tasks, people, reports, any Workday item or object that I have security to, it'll pull up in my search results. So again, if you don't know the full name of the task, but you know requisition is in the word or in the title, you could just start with typing in requisition, hit enter, and you're going to get everything having to do with a requisition that you personally have security access for. All right, and we'll use that quite a bit, so we'll keep talking about the search bar today. Over here is your notifications icon. So again, these are just FYIs. This one is about creating that I was created as a Workday user. I was hired into this tenant 14 days ago. As you probably have others that are in that notifications icon. So again, these are just FYIs. Just, hey, this happened. Just wanted to let you know. Nothing you need to act upon. Next to the notifications is your My Tasks. So this is going to include items that you have to act upon. My inbox is currently empty, which is great. Means I'm all caught up. But again, anything that you, in your role as a business partner and ops specialist, anything you need to act upon, you need to review, approve, put input into before moving on in the business process, that will all appear here in your inbox. Moving on, well, actually here, I'm gonna go back to my homepage. So I'm gonna click my BYU icon. Scrolling down a little bit, again, what you see kind of in the middle of the screen is going to adjust based on the time of year it is, right? There's gonna probably be big announcements about open enrollment when that time comes, or performance reviews when that time comes, right? So it's a really great place for just others within the organization to be able to post announcements or some timely updates. Those of you as you know, who are managers, you'll get information about your direct reports. So maybe somebody has an absence coming up soon, maybe a vacation day, like I mentioned, the birthdays and anniversaries that I love. Announcements, so you can have maybe some new hire or onboarding announcements there. Your quick tasks, so what you are constantly navigating to will show up as a quick task. Your top apps that you can, these are the same applications that are going to show up here in your menu list. It's just for top apps, and you can adjust those. So you can edit here in your applications, and you can kind of move things around. So if I wanted to move benefits and pay up here, I can save my changes. And then once I log out and log back in, so it won't do it right now, but then I should see those in my top apps. So there's job aids for this as well. Of course, you know, just things to do, you know, after we go live, just to kind of personalize your homepage once you kind of get your feet wet. All right. Last thing I'm going to show you is your worker profile. So up here, I'm going to click my photo, my Harper HR photo, and I'm going to click View Profile. This is really your one-stop shop, I would say, for all of your HR related data, right? So everybody is looking at their profile right now. If you are following along, and again, it's totally fine if you're not, looking at your profile, right? So I'm Harper HR. I see a lot of information because it's me, right? I can see all of my information, my contact information, my pay information, all of that I will be able to see for myself. Then I actually can search other employees as well. So you can search any employee here at BYU, but the amount of data you can see about that employee is going to be dependent on your security, right? So there's some, like the employees within your unit, that you will be able to see a lot of information on. Others that are not in your unit, you won't be able to see as much information on. We'll talk a little bit more about security in just a minute. So we're not going to go through every single tab, but again, do want you to just kind of get familiar looking at the tabs on the left-hand side. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory. You can see your compensation history information, your pay information, absence and benefits related information, of course, your personal and contact information, so like your home address, phone number, all of that is here on your profile. And then down at the bottom, you get more into like the talent performance aspects of your profile, which that'll come week 4, week 5. We'll spend a lot of time on talent performance. So feedback, you can give and receive feedback in Workday, which is pretty cool. You can put your development goals in Workday, performance reviews in Workday. All of that under those last 3 performance, career, and feedback tabs within your profile. All right. I believe I'm going to, let me hop back in the tenant. Yes, let's go ahead and now feel free to, if you haven't already, go ahead and complete the general navigation activity. So it's the first page of your activity guide, activity 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. We'll just give just a couple minutes because as I was looking around, I think a lot of you just did that with me, which is great. So we'll just break for a couple minutes, selfishly to give my voice a rest for a couple minutes. Let us know if you have any questions, and then we'll hop back in. We'll look at org charts, and we'll keep digging a little further. And just raise your hand or holler if you have any questions. Have a question or need us to come by. want to hear it because you're like me and you don't know the answer. No, it's either from that'll I'm okay on my phone. I don't know. No numbers, no nothing. But to your point, yeah, if there was somebody, you know, like you said, at the house number, so probably just like one more minute, and then we'll move on. I live in the Woodlands, just north. Yeah. Do you know the area?
I do, just generally know I grew up in Arlington,
Oh,
so, and I
cool.
just don't say fixing very much. So it was fun when I used it.
So we lived there, well, not from there, originally from Seattle, but lived there since 2009. And my husband and I were really adamant. Like, we were just like kind of rolled our eyes. And then we just embraced it. It's just so much easier, but fixing too, I can't get on board.
How, when I'm home, it comes out really easy.
Does it? Yeah, I've just heard other people,
Yes.
other people say it, but that one doesn't roll off the tongue for me quite as much as the other.
I moved there when I was 11, and my mom was pretty bad. I did a Southern accent. She didn't know what to do, so she but it's fun when I get home. So, you know, my dad's still there, so it's,
Oh, yeah.
100 years later, it's still not.
Yeah.
So, but do drop that.
Both my kids are born there. 4 years, well, I mean, they're 4 and 5. They're still young, but they, I mean, they'll even say all y'all. Like they just say it all. Like,
Yes, yes. I have nieces and nephews that.
I think it's adorable.
Very quick. I love it. No.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, I don't want to rush anyone, but is it okay if we keep going? We'll do a little bit more basic navigation here after this next section as well. Okay, so we're going to dig into a little bit more like Workday core concepts. And these are super important because all 4 of these that we're going to talk about, truly we're going to talk about over and over and over and over and over again today, and then every subsequent training after this. So the 4 that we're really focusing on: organizations, position management, security, and business processes. And honestly, security and business processes I've already kind of mentioned. So Workday loves this concept of organizations, and really at its core, this is just a way to group employees together that serve a common purpose. This is typically it represents how work is done and how BYU is structured. So specifically supervisory organizations, which we're going to talk about first and talk about a lot, that's really your org chart, right? It's really just kind of structuring or visually depicting how BYU is structured. Organizations are used all across Workday. So there's organizations that are more finance focused, like cost centers, organizations that are more HR focused, like supervisory organizations. And you all, as employees, you are part of multiple different organizations within BYU, and we'll take a look at that here in just a second. It'll make more sense. So supervisory organizations really defines that who reports to whom structure. So at first glance, it could be really easy to say, oh, this just represents our departments, right? It represents, maybe the nursing department or, a part of the engineering, a small subset of the engineering department. But it actually gets even more granular than that. It represents who reports to what manager, and then continues that pattern all the way up to the very top of your org, which would be your college president. So I have, let's say, 2 direct reports. Those 2 direct reports are a supervisory organization because they report to me. Now, if I had 10 direct reports, if I had 20, if I had 50, it doesn't matter. All of those individuals that report to me as their manager, they are one supervisory organization. Now, me as their manager, I'm not part of that supervisory organization. I am part of another supervisory organization with all of my peers, right? All of the people, my peers, right? All the people on the same team as me that report to my manager, we are a supervisory organization. So a supervisory organization could be one person, it could be hundreds of people, right? It's all it really means at its core is who reports to who, and who that who again could be one person, could be many people. Okay, so everyone is a member of a supervisory organization. You're only a member truly of one. Although again, if you think of an org chart, right? A manager reports to a manager, reports to a manager, reports to a manager. It goes all the way up to the president. And the manager does not reside in the supervisory organization of the team they manage. And this is always kind of a funky concept. And I know when I learned it, it took a minute, right? So again, I have, let's say, 2 direct reports. They both, these 2 individuals, they report up to me. So Tanya Gray's, so that's me, Tanya Gray's supervisory organization consists of those 2 individuals. Now I report to Mac's manager, and there's 4 or 5 of us. We all report to Mac's manager. So I am a part of Mac's manager's organization, his supervisory organization. Now Max and all of his peers, they all report to Sloan Senior Leader. So they are part of Sloan Senior Leader's supervisory organization. Okay, so we'll take a look at the org chart here in just a minute, and hopefully that'll make some more sense. Okay, a cost center is another form of an organization. So like I said, there are many different organizations in Workday. We'll go into your profile in just a minute. You'll be able to see all of the different organizations you are part of. Now, don't tell finance I said this. But the most important one is your supervisory organization, right? For HR purposes, that drives security, that drives business processes, that drives who you support in your HR role. So it is the most important. Finance would probably argue that with me, but I think it's the most important. Cost center, so that's an example of a financial organization, and also one that you probably see very often. This is where your budget comes from, right? This is how positions are budgeted. Anything that has to do with a spend, right? A spend or any kind of revenue within a department would be part of a cost center. So that's another example of an organization. Cost centers, again, used to group financial transactions, budgets, and workers. So the salary and the budget that comes from a worker, right, would be all combined into a cost center. Positions are directly tied to cost centers, and again, we'll take a look at that in just a minute. Locations are also forms of organizations, and they are very important in a Workday sense. However, at BYU, I would say this is a very simple organization because most everybody works here, right? You all work at BYU at the general campus. Now, I know that's not a hard and fast rule. You do have other locations. Those are in Workday. As you get into Workday, kind of play around, we do get to a more granular level that this position works in the Crabtree building or works in maybe another building somewhere. So everybody is part of a location hierarchy in a location organization. The majority will be the BYU general campus, but there's FSY as an example of like an out-of-state organization. Again, think about, Workday has so many different customers globally, right? So sometimes location organizations are really important because we need to group all of the workers that work in Utah or that work in Washington or New York, because that could have compensation effects, that could have tax implications, all kinds of things. Again, BYU is a little bit more, I would say, streamlined since so many of you all work here. Any questions before we keep going? Again, we're gonna we'll look at org charts in Workday, which hopefully will help that who reports to who supervisory organization concept. Okay. So position management, the best way to describe this is by using a chair analogy. So in Workday, as we move to go live and into our new world in Workday, every individual at BYU, every employee at BYU, whether they're part-time, full-time, student, faculty, staff, everyone will have their own unique individual position. You must have a vacant position in order to hire someone. And again, that's where this chair analogy comes from. So a supervisory organization, we'll go back to me. I have a supervisory organization. Let's say now I have 5 people. So think of a table, you've got 5 chairs, right? So those 5 chairs, every chair represents a position. Now, whether or not I have workers in those chairs, so people who have filled those positions, I still have those positions. So I have, let's say, a position, and I have Sally student, it's student worker. Sally student works in this position. Well, Sally student is great, but she's moved on to another role. So Sally student leaves that position. She leaves that seat, but I still have that chair. That chair is still open. It's vacant. It's in my organization. I can then hire Sandy student into that chair. Sandy student moves on. She's great. If she moves on, I can hire Jimmy student into that chair. People can leave and I can rehire into that same chair. I do not have to, nor should I, create a brand new position every time I want to hire someone. I want to keep my head count, keep my open positions and my filled positions, and then hire people into those vacant positions as they become available. Okay. 2 people can almost never, and I'll give the caveat of why I'm saying almost, 2 people can almost never be in the same position at the same time. That's just the concept of position management. You have one worker, one person to one position. Now, the time that you can potentially have 2 people, say somebody's retiring, right? And we know way in advance they're retiring in 2 months. Workday has a feature called position overlap, and that allows us to take that same position, post it, hire, recruit for it, and really have 2 people in it at once for cross-training purposes and all of that before that person leaves. That's really the only time you'd have 2 people in one position. And so we understand, we fully recognize this is slightly different than how things operate today. That you all have, you have some position management. So some of this is probably very similar, but I think there's other positions, maybe part-time or student workers, where you could have multiple students that all have the same position number. Questions on this? Again, we're going to talk about it over and over and over. So if it's a little fuzzy right now, that's okay. Okay. So more reasons why having this position management concept really is beneficial. We want to talk about the difference between position data and person data. So like I mentioned, we're going to use the table and the chair analogy. I'm the manager. I've got these 5 workers that work for me. Each worker, each individual sits in a chair, a position at my organization. So this chair, this position, there are certain attributes that are attached to it. One is a job profile, and we're going to talk about job profiles here in just a minute. That job profile has my worker type, right? Is this an employee or is this a contingent worker? What worker subtype is this employee? Are they staff? Are they faculty? Are they a student? What's the pay rate and pay range, right? So what is the pay classified as for this position? What's the management level for this position, right? Those attributes, they don't change no matter who's sitting in that seat, right? So this position is, say, a trainer, right? Maybe a trainer or training admin or training coordinator 1, right? So that training coordinator 1 profile is attached to that position. It has a title. It has a comp range or a comp grade. management level. I know it's full-time, it's a staff employee type, that's all attached to the position. Now, when I have Timmy Trainer hired into that position, Timmy Trainer he's the person, right? Timmy Trainer is in this training admin or training coordinator role. Timmy Trainer, he has his own personal contact information, right? He has his own bio demo data. He has his own compensation, right? So the position has a comp grade or a range. Timmy Trainer has his personal pay amount based on his education, experience, resume, so on and so forth. Timmy Trainer has his own goals, his own maybe feedback he's received, his development plans, his worker history, so how he's maybe moved around at BYU, right? So that's the person data. So the person data will follow Timmy or whoever it is around as they move to different positions within BYU, but the position data stays on that chair, stays on that seat. So I hire someone in, they fill that role, they leave, all of that data still stays here, right? So it's still a training coordinator one, it's still full-time, it's still staff, it still has the same pay grade or comp range, the same management level, no matter who fills that role. That makes sense?
That's really helpful.
Good. Good.
So there is some overlap in that when a person moves into a different position, the job title they had, maybe their pay rate, still goes with that person, but the range stays with the position, the title still stays with the position, so like, it can be listed in both places. Somebody else now occupies that position, but it still shows that from this date to this date.
Their history.
This person,
Yeah, you're talking about like their history. That
Yeah.
absolutely. All of that history is saved. Yeah.
But it's still the position data for that position, but it's attached to that person's history.
Yeah. So here's a very general example. So let's say there is a job that has a pay range of 40,000 to 60,000 a year, right? A coordinator, an whatever it might be, 40,000 to 60,000. That stays on the position, no matter who is in that position. That's the pay range. I am in that position, and my salary is 50,000. So that stays on me, and now I move to a different position, and it'll show in my history. Oh, Tanya was in this position and made 50,000. Now she's in, whatever this other position is. I probably have a new salary based on what that position data has. Does that make sense?
So the position title goes with you, it also stays with the position itself, and your specific information that goes to you.
So when we say goes with you, it'll always stay in my worker history. It never goes away. But my title probably changes, right? So I'm in this position and I am a training coordinator. Then I move to this position and now I'm a training manager, right? But it'll still, you can look at my profile and say, oh, Tanya was a training coordinator from 2020 to 2023. She was a training manager from 2023 to 2024. You'll be able to see all that history.
Will the position data then show who filled this position 10 years ago?
Will the position data show? That's a great question. I think the answer is yes. What I don't know is if you'll see that in Workday or if that, I don't know how much history is being brought over on positions.
Moving forward, though, it stays.
Absolutely.
Is this a question of history?
Yes.
Yeah, I just asked today, and the history moving forward is gonna stay, but all the old history is gonna be housed somewhere else in an old system, so you can grab it for records, but it's not coming to Workday.
As of go live.
As of go live. Okay.
Yeah. Good question. Yeah, we got that
Yeah, we
question
got that
yesterday.
I was like, I got the answer to that one.
Yes. Yeah. These are great questions. What other questions?
Like with the position pay ranges, is it possible to like make it more constrained? Like if, so for a student TA position,
Mhm.
like the range is quite large.
Mhm.
But if like our department wanted to have the range smaller, can we do that? Or
So-
does it have to be the full range?
Mm-hmm. So that's a great question for compensation. My understanding, feel free to jump in, is that none of that really changed from what you do today. That comp grades are comp grades on certain positions. I still think you have the autonomy to say, okay, it might be between $10 and $16 an hour, but we're only, our department only pays between 12 and 14. I think you still have that autonomy, but it wouldn't change on the actual job profile. Did I answer that correctly? Okay. Other questions? Yeah.
Does the chair analogy apply to student jobs?
Yes.
So we have grad students who will sometimes be an RA for a professor a semester, and they'll TA, but that RA position isn't being filled by someone else while they're not there.
No, that's fine. Yep. So
Okay.
we'll see when we hop in. You can keep a position vacant for as long as you want. Okay. And then they can come back and refill it later.
Okay.
Yep. You can freeze positions, or you can just leave it vacant. We don't want to close them unless you truly know we are never, ever, ever going to use an RA or a TA for this, department ever again. We just don't want to close them. Keep that head count, but you can keep it vacant and then have them rehire them into that or transfer them into that position again.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
How do we edit positions? So the supervisor, we want to keep everything the same, but that was for this class, and now the professor teaching that class has changed, so we want to have the TA information stay with that class and go to a new professor.
So hold that question. Hold that question for now. My initial thought is we would actually do with move the position or move the worker. So you would still have that same position. You would just move it, because to me it sounds like they have another manager, right? You would move it to a different supervisory organization. You could potentially do that. Yeah, but we'll talk about that. Actually, that'll probably be more week 3. We'll get into all of that.
Yeah, I had a similar question. Students move around so much.
Yeah.
They change supervisors, account members.
Yep. I think it's week 3. There's a really cool task or process in Workday called Change Job. Change Job can encompass so many different things. You can transfer, you can move people, you can change their manager, you can change their pay if needed, you can promote them, you can, so you can move people with their position, you can move people into new positions. Obviously, there's parameters around all of that, but we'll get into all of that in week 3. Yeah. Yep. Okay, I'm going to move on. Keep the questions coming, though. Again, these are great questions. Security. So security roles are security is assigned to both people and to positions. So this is another reason why we love position management, right? So take this room for example, and actually I think we had this exact scenario when we were talking about where's our 4th business partner. Oh, we're hiring that 4th business partner. So if, so I know there's 3 business partners in here right now. So if we have a business partner for life sciences, right? If our business partner for life sciences decides to, I don't know, we're going to say wins the lottery and decides that, she no longer needs to be a full-time employee at BYU, which is, we hope that does not, well, we hope she wins the lottery, but we don't have to leave. And she, leaves that position. Well, we need to hire a business partner for life sciences. And that security is still attached to that role, which is great, because then when we hire that person in, that person gets all of that business partner security. So I come from a PeopleSoft background. My first job was at a college implementing PeopleSoft, and I know the woes of PeopleSoft security requests when you hire somebody new and you say you need to mirror their security and they need this and they need that. We don't have to do that anymore because it's all attached to that position. So when somebody leaves a position, all that security is still there, and when we hire somebody into it, they get it. Okay. So security roles are not directly related to job titles. They align with job functions. The other thing I think is really cool about Workday security, cool but also kind of complicated, I think of security in 2 different ways, specifically when I think about you all and what your role is here at the campus. So there is a part of security that provides to you what you can do in Workday, right? So everybody in this room, every operations specialist can initiate a termination, let's say. You can all create a job requisition. You can potentially initiate a transfer. There are things that you all can do, right? However, you all can do them on different people, right? So in life sciences, they can initiate termination for their folks in life sciences. They can't initiate a termination for someone in the engineering department, right? So security drives what you can do, but then also who you can act upon, essentially. That makes sense? So what if you don't have security for something? Lindsay touched on this when she was in here earlier. Security in Workday is a big undertaking, right? You all have probably been part of conversations and looked at spreadsheets about, who needs what or who's going to support which department. Are we close in terms of getting security right? I would say yes. Is it 100% there? 100% there right now? Maybe not. Might need to be some tweaks. There's a QR code. It's over there. We only have one. So as you're in Workday today, if something is looking way weird, like you are in life sciences, but you're seeing everybody in the engineering department, let us know. Scan that QR code. Let us know. If we go through a process today, like create job requisition, and for whatever reason you can't do it, let us know. All of these things we want to know. Okay. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate organization, just kind of show you a couple reports to hopefully drive some of these concepts home. I also want to show you the org chart. I know I've been looking around. I see some of you have already kind of played around with the org chart, which I love. So let me, my mouse is not working for some reason. There we go. Let me hop back into Workday. So I use the org chart a lot. I use it in my organization. I use it when I'm learning other people's organizations, partly just because I'm a visual person. So if you're a visual like me, you might love this. The easiest way to get to the org chart, I think, if you just go to your profile, and then under actions, so under your picture and your name, under actions, there is an icon here for team. That is going to pull up the organization chart, and it's going to pull it up with your specific supervisory organization. It's taken just a minute. So you can see me. Let me see if I can. Hopefully you can see that. So this is me, Harper HR. I am in Max Manager's supervisory organization. Max Manager is my manager. Okay. So he's a training manager. The number 23 that's in the little bubble next to his name, that's telling me he has 23 direct reports. So the 23 of us that report to Max Manager, we are in that same Max's supervisory organization. If I scroll through, again, all of these individuals are my peers, right? They're all in Max Manager's organization. Some people have, you see some have photos, some don't, simply because you can probably tell, right? Buzz Lightyear, Captain Hook, these are fake employees. We just didn't load photos for all of them. Everybody, I believe, in BYU, real BYU people have photos. I can scroll down, I can see all of the different people that are in this organization with me. Then I also get to some of these that just have numbers, they have names. You can obviously tell these that this is test data, but anything that doesn't have a photo in your real live system or live organization, not my training organization, and also that has, that all you're seeing is a number, the position number or the title that does not have a name, those are vacant positions, right? So again, Max has 23 direct reports. I did say direct reports. However, you can also think of that as Max has 23 chairs around his table. Now, not all of them are filled, right? I can see right here, there's at least 4 that aren't filled. So these are vacant positions within his organization. Now I'm just using, excuse me, I'm using the scroll bar to scroll up. So here's our organization. We all report to Max. If I keep scrolling up, now I see that Max and his buddy Max, not to be confused, we've got two Max managers. They both report to Sloan Senior Leader. Okay, so Sloan Senior Leader up there has number 2, so he's got 2 seats at his table in his supervisory organization. They're both filled by Max and Max. Okay, now this Max, I could click this down arrow and I could see Max's 17 direct reports. Okay, so org charts, obviously they go up, but they also go out, right? It's a big spider web. I can keep scrolling up. I can see Sloan Senior Leader. So Sloan and the rest of Sloan's team, we're going to get into real people here in a minute, they all report to Nikilani. Okay, she has 8 people around her table. Again, they might not all be filled positions. Obviously, for screen real estate, it's not showing me everyone. You can always click the show more, and it'll then show you everyone, right? So here are her 8. She's got, looks like 5 that are filled, 3 that are not filled. I'm going to show you one other thing. Let me just, and then I'll let you play around with this. Actually, a couple other things. So if I go back to my profile, and if you click on job, and then up here on the top, if you click on organizations. So remember when we were talking about organizations, we talked about supervisory organizations a lot. And I said that supervisory organizations are the most important, which we're not going to tell our finance friends. But there are a ton of other organizations that you are probably part of. So mine is not the best example because again, this is all fake data. We didn't assign Harper to 1 million orgs. She's just in her supervisory org. But if you pull up your list of organizations, you will probably see location. You might see cost center. You might see some other organizations listed there as well. And these are organizations that you are a member of. Now, again, supervisory organization is going to be the most important. Cost center is important as well, although again, it's that's going to be very similar to, currently right now, if you need to purchase something, you need to know like your department ID, things like that, right? So don't feel like you need to memorize all those different organizations. But if you have any questions about what orgs you're part of, organizations is the place to go. The other tab you can take a look, well, you can take a look at any of the tabs, but the other one I want to call out is the support roles tab. This is a list of individuals who support you. So how I would read this, the assignable role, benefits partner. So these 4 individuals listed here are the benefits partner that support Max Manager, which is the supervisory org that I'm part of. They all support Max Manager's supervisory org. Comp partner. These are all of the comp partners that support Max Manager's supervisory organization. HR business partner, right? So on and so forth. Okay, so if you ever needed to know, there's going to be a lot of different ways you can find out who your ops specialist is or your business partner. And again, hopefully that'll become second nature to your department or your unit. But this is another way that they can check that out. Now, let's talk about the inverse of that. So this is how do I find out who supports me? But we, honestly, today and then for the next 5 weeks are a little bit more concerned with, well, who do I support, right, in my role as an ops specialist? So 2 different reports you can pull. The first one, so if you go to your search bar, the first one is called My Supporting Roles. So if you type in My Supporting Roles and hit enter, for me, it's the only thing that pulls up. I can click that hyperlink. And this is going to show me all of the different supervisory organizations that I support. So if I'm looking at this right here and I look all the way over the right, I'm an HR business partner. You might have multiple roles. If you're a manager, you might see some that you support as a manager. Obviously, again, today we're mostly concerned about your HR role. So these are all of the different individual supervisory organizations that I support. Now, I support 921 organizations because I am on all of them. Hopefully yours does not have that many. As I was kind of playing around, I think some have like 3 or 4, some have 5 or 6, some have upwards of 30. again, remember, supervisory organization is not one-to-one to the department, right? So life sciences probably has, I don't even know how many, right? Every managerial, hierarchical, one manager, 3 direct reports, that is one specific supervisory organization.
So I support supervisory organizations that are outside of mine. And is this how I get access to be able to like terminate their employees or that kind of a thing?
Exactly. Yep. If it's on here, it means you're going to have security access to perform actions on those employees that are in that org. Again, like I said, if something looks super wonky, use the QR code. If it's just slight little tweaks, like something may have, maybe there was some renaming of some organizations or something in the last 6 months, that's more of a data issue. Again, that'll be resolved at go live. But if you're seeing something that looks totally weird, let us know for sure. So this is one report. I'm going to show you one more, and then we'll break for some questions and some more practice. I personally like this other report even better. And the other report is called Workers I Support. And again, all of this is we're now kind of going through organizations and jobs activities. So all of these notes are in here. Workers I support. So I typed in workers I support, I hit enter, and I'm getting people, right? I'm getting some kind of weird search results. So one thing to know about Workday, we talked about this a lot yesterday, so I want to make sure, hopefully alleviate any confusion. Workday always thinks that when you're typing something in the search bar that you're trying to search for a person. So it's always going to pull up any people that might have some semblance of the keywords that you're putting in. I know workers I support is not a person, right? It's a task. So over here on the left, you've got your search categories. So again, people is always going to be the top category unless you change your search preferences, which I can show you how to do. I don't actually recommend that we do it. Tasks and reports is this other search category that's right under people. So I can click tasks and reports. It's going to get rid of those people that are showing up here in my results. Or you can just scroll down and you should have tasks and reports right under. Once you open that report, the first thing you need to do is basically tell Workday what role do they want, what supporting role should Workday pull the employees you support from. So if you click in the drop down and go down to my roles, I am not a manager, but I'm an HR business partner, and I'm also a primary recruiter, which we'll talk about later on today. A lot of you in this room are probably managers, so you might have manager and HR business partner or HR ops specialist. You might have more than that even, right? So just go ahead and choose an HR role. So whether it's HR business partner, HR operations specialist, click OK. And this should pull a list of the names of the employees in the orgs that you support. So technically, the results are exactly the same as the other report that we pulled, but instead of getting organizations, you're actually getting people's names, which I personally like. Yeah.
If you are seeing operations specialist or business partner, let us know.
There is, yes. I'll just show you. Yeah, remember this data is from like April or May, so you're gonna probably see names on there that are not, not right. And in just a minute, I'm going to show you all how to kind of search and filter within this report too. Yes.
Is there a way when you're in here to just navigate
No, you're the one. Can we see like the supervisor here and then the worker here? You know, like I would like to see that thing here to see who the workers are.
I'm going to show you how to filter in just a second. That'll help. Yep. So this report is delivered as is. We can't change the report, but I can show you how to filter. So in fact, let me if we can all just come together for a second. I'm getting a lot of questions about this report, which is great. I want to show you a couple ways to filter this to hopefully make it even easier for you. If you're like me, again, I'm joking. Hopefully nobody has this. I'm supporting 24,000 workers in my role. So I need to figure out a way to kind of make this data work for me a little bit better. We can't edit this report. This is a Workday delivered report. It, to be blunt, it is what it is, right? But you can search and you can sort and filter within these reports in Workday. So I can click in this, I'm going to click in this supervisory organization header. So if you just click in the header, filter condition. So for example, let me just look for a manager. I have the question over here, how do I know who all reports to one manager? I will say there are multiple ways you can find that information in Workday, but if you want to get there directly from this report, I can click right here in this header of supervisory organization. I'm just going to use J. Buckley. Filter condition. Oops, sorry, just a second, there we go. Filter condition is, I'm gonna just type in this value field and I'm gonna type in J. Buckley, hit enter. And apologies, mine's gonna go really slow because it has 24,000 rows. So you all actually might have much better luck doing it on your report. So there we go. Let's try that one more time. J. Buckley. There we go. So now it has filtered to J. Buckley. I found in my search results. I'm going to click filter. Now what it should do is pull all of the workers on the left-hand side that are in J. Buckley's supervisory organization, which it did. He only has 4. Okay. So we click just right in supervisory organization in that header. And then you can put a value here in that filter. Filter condition is, you can play around with this too, but then, type in a value there, use the drop down to search. You can also alphabetize, so sort ascending, sort descending. I'm sorry? All right, so maybe whoopsies, flipping ahead on my slides. Let's go ahead and take just 2 more minutes. Let's go ahead and take 2 more minutes if you haven't already. It's activities 1.4 through 1.7, and then we'll keep it going. It was a matter of time. Yes. Sure.
There are reports where I can see the supervisors and their workers.
I'm sure there will be. Yeah.
Not yet.
Well, there might be. I just don't. My answer is I do not know what it is or where it is, but I'm sure there's so many reports in Workday. Yeah, I just don't know exactly what report it is that you would pull it up.
Yeah, it's super fun. I'm glad I've been in it before, but yeah, it's helpful. No, that's okay. So. Exactly, and everybody keeps changing, so it's hard to assess or, thank you.
Okay, so I just looked at the time. We've been going for about an hour and 45 minutes. I was looking at our content. Do y'all want to take a break or do you want to keep going for a few minutes? Take a break? We're already kind of breaking. So let's go ahead and take like 5 to 7 minutes. If y'all need to stretch, use the restroom, grab a snack.
Then you should. Are you seeing where will it be sold? Because I think she's right back.
Oh, so you wanna do it all?
Are you an HR business partner? And you're an HR.
I don't know.
No. You're an HR operations specialist.
So one, I think HR, yeah, and two, she also has years. Or whatever.
Okay, let's run and then let's run my support. And that's gonna show you what to do. So next one is cover. Yeah, so then let's run. You filtered out. But you should be seeing a lot more. So were you just seeing
I don't know. That's my question for you. Are you seeing my students too, right? When you present. Yes. So my right by the
to my faculty or my students because I'm
Oh, yeah, really, yeah.
I'm just refreshing, so I'm like, hoping to help you see which is high and what's wrong, but it's also security. Let's go to nice in the search bar. I don't know if things are changing or what you should be seeing, but whatever you see here is what it is right now, that's what they have planned. So you both have HR operations specialists, that's why you're supporting. And these are the work they contract, so these are the managers. And then all of the workers are there. So if you're missing a manager, are not.
Yeah, so she's two
there. So you're missing.
and then she,
I see. Okay. Okay. Yes. That might be why she's
Stand for a minute.
I know.
Let me just stand.
That after sitting on
But in order to see the students, I'm
So let's pull out
Standing up, I know. I need to move more.
like playing a game on my phone.
So here's my thing. I don't work in the department, I work in my faculty are from other department. I don't have that like faculty, but I have all of this. So I should be able to say exactly myself, because I I'm sure there are. I just don't want to. But yeah, that's very basic. So yeah, absolutely. They'll reach out to you. They're confused by it. Yeah, they don't know. Again, I don't imagine you will see No, we work remotely. Yeah, yeah. There are offices and yeah. Yeah. There's some bigger cities there's some offices you can go to, but not really. Very happy to be coming here this time of year. So maybe tomorrow. Even if I can't see the professor, you should feel like I kind of imagine, I might ask about Are you aware of faculty are going to be hiring representatives?
No, we're not letting us.
That I don't know.
I'm not
They
letting
can-
do it.
I think they could start job requisitions, but I don't know what their that's a good niche question. Or maybe
That's just when we get told and they're freaking and we're freaking and faculty trying to hire their own students.
I think it's wonderful.
Oh my God, that's how you have to do it. I love your attitude.
Well, I don't know security. I'm thinking like, can you
They have Nutra Green Bar. Do you want a Nutra Green Bar?
All right, we can start making our way back to our seats. We'll keep going here in just a minute.
Are they going to actually work? I'm not sure of my experience. She said they That's not gonna work. Okay, I understand what you're doing. I'll let you do
All right, we're gonna get started here in like 30 seconds. All right, so we're going to take a little break from the tenant for a few minutes, talk through just some more concepts. But I promise we'll get back in and we'll create requisitions and look at vacant positions here in just a minute. So our next core concept that we're going to talk through is business processes. So we're starting now. Yep. So we're going to talk through business processes now. So this is another core concept of Workday. I think it's like the Workday powerhouse superhero concept. Just the idea that we can indicate in Workday, we can tell Workday, hey, a hire needs to route in this manner based on the type of employee. So for example, we know that your hire process is very different for a staff versus a faculty versus a student versus a FSY coach instructor. I'm starting to learn the BYU terminology. I'm doing my best. I still sometimes have to ask Lauren what certain abbreviations are though. So we know, right, that those hire processes are very different. We can build that and have built that all into Workday, right? So that we know, for a faculty hire, there are certain people that need to approve that compensation or that need to run, background checks or, all of the other various checks that need to occur before that individual is hired. So Workday automatically routes tasks to the responsible role, right? This is also where security comes into play, right? So it's only going to route a task to somebody who has the appropriate security. And it's when we say it's going to route to the proper people, Workday knows based on all that security that's built in that if it's a faculty hire in life sciences, it's going to route to those individuals in life sciences, so the business partner and the ops specialist. It knows that if we're hiring a student, and I'm just using hire as an example, the same is true for termination and any other business process within Workday, that the system will know based on certain condition rules, so the type of employee or candidate or individual that we're working with, the organization or the supervisory organization that we are transacting within, it knows what role to send the next step in the process to. So pretty cool. A lot, obviously very, very robust feature. So this is just a very simple example. An employee requests an absence. It routes to the manager to approve that absence. The employee receives a notification that their absence request has been approved. So absence request process flow is pretty straightforward. Obviously, when we talk about something like a hire, there's a lot of nuances there. That's, again, baked into Workday.
About that.
Yeah.
So what happens if I wake up when you're sick and you have a request in absence? Can you do that?
Yeah, yep. So what you all are going to see when you get into Workday, obviously there are going to be processes that you initiate, right? Which we talked about, right? Initiating a job requisition. We're going to do that here in just a minute. When you get things in your inbox, there are some specific actions that you will take on those processes that come to your inbox. You might approve something, right? So that's that orange approve button. That actually moves that task forward to the next step, the next individual in that workflow that might need to approve. You can send back that process to, maybe somebody else. So send it back to the initiator. So maybe, an example, compensation, right? As we're going through the offer process, there's certain approvals that are in that offer process. So maybe it gets to somebody, to approve, and they have questions about this job offer. They can type a comment, is this the amount we agreed upon? Hit submit or hit send back, and it will go back to that initiator or that prior individual within that workflow. Deny, you will also have that option. You can deny something in Workday. We suggest you use that very cautiously, because if you deny something, the individual would have to start that over, right? So if it's just an error that we can adjust, we recommend you click send back. Don't deny it, unless no, this isn't. We're not offering this job to this individual, or whatever the case may be. And then cancel is always an option as well. That just cancels you out of the screen, and then you can go back to that later. Okay. Errors and alerts. So if you get a red error, and I'll try to demo this later, either on purpose or not on purpose if I get an error. A red error is, typically it means you've left a field blank, or it could mean you put something in a field that's not allowed. A red error is a hard stop, so you can't move forward until you fix whatever it is that you need to fix. An orange alert, you can submit, you can bypass that alert and actually submit whatever that process is, but the orange alert should tell you to proceed with caution. So a great example of this is if you are entering in compensation for someone, so a hire or a job offer, there's that comp range, but technically you could go outside the range, right? So if you enter in a dollar amount that's outside of that range, it won't stop you, but you will get an alert that says, hey, this amount is outside of the range. Can you, double check that before you submit it? We have been told, so we wanted to share with you that, we understand in PeopleSoft, sometimes the errors or the alert messages are not always user-friendly. These are very user-friendly. So they should hopefully, unless you're getting some weird, Workday glitch error, if this is simply a, hey, you left this field blank, or this is outside of the comp range or something like that, you should be able to really understand based on that message what you might need to do or take a look at before you move forward. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about different employee types. So, and really this is kind of more terminology. I've probably already said some of these terms. You're going to see some of these fields as we get into the tenant and create a job requisition. And so really just kind of want to demystify what is what, because again, sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. So Workday will identify employees based on a lot of different factors, and these are a couple of them right here. So time type for BYU is just full-time or part-time. So anywhere it's asking for, what's the time type for this worker or position, full-time or part-time, that's it. Worker type is always, is this an employee or is this a contingent worker? We'll talk about contingent workers in just a minute. Worker subtype is where you have a lot of different options. So for example, a worker subtype for an employee. So if you indicate what is the employee type, well, the employee type is, what is the worker type? See, I've already got it mixed up. What is the worker type? Is it employee or contingent worker? If you indicate it's an employee, well, then you'll need to indicate a worker subtype. These should all look familiar, right? Is it a faculty? Is it a staff? Fixed term? Is it seasonal? Student? Now again, staff could be part-time, could be 3/4 time, it could be full-time, right? That's all depicted in the time type. Okay, but the worker could be employee, and then worker would be worker type, employee, and then here are your subtypes. Yeah.
So there won't be a 3/4 time. It'll just be a part-time.
Yes, part-time, full-time. Sorry about that. Yeah, so your time type, part-time or full-time. We actually just talked about that. Questions about these? Okay. Contingent worker subtype. So again, your worker type is employee or contingent worker, and then depending on what you pick, you'll have to choose a subtype. Your contingent worker subtypes listed here, these also should look familiar, I think similar to what you've used today. A contingent worker is someone that we need to hire, and I'm using air quotes, hire into Workday. But we need to hire them into Workday simply because they need some kind of provisioning access. So maybe they need building access, they need an ID, they need computer access. So I am not a BYU employee, I'm a Cognizant employee, but I am a contingent worker for all intents and purposes, right? Because I need clearly consistent access, I access buildings, I have a BYU net ID, so I'm considered a contingent worker. So these are individuals that are not paid by BYU. So affiliate faculty, contractors, service missionaries, volunteers, those are all different types of contingent workers. Any questions about those? All right. So now let's talk a little bit about the job catalog. So we have already briefly talked about job profiles, and this really kind of goes back to that conversation we were having earlier about positions. So if you think about a job catalog, which I typically equate to a job description, but obviously there's a lot more that goes into that, you can also think of this kind of as a hierarchy as well. And this is just a simple way, or hopefully a simple way, that Workday likes to group different types of job profiles or different types of jobs within BYU. So we've already talked about the position. So the position has a job profile attached to it and the position description. Again, that is what makes up that empty seat that we can then hire into. Job profiles are collections of job functions and shared details. So a job profile is where you would actually have a job description, okay? A job family groups job profiles into a related family, and then job family group is a collection of job families. So again, I started on the right and worked my way left. I probably should have gone the other way. You've got job family kind of is the big umbrella. Job family group is the big umbrella. Job family, individual job profile, and that job profile then gets attached to a position. So here's some real world examples, and we've got 3 different types here. So the top row would be a faculty worker subtype example. So the job family group is faculty. The job family is faculty professorial, professor, I don't know if I'm saying that right. And then your job profile is a regular faculty. So my understanding is you've got regular faculty. You also have, I think, research faculty. Maybe it's teaching and research. And then you've got your position. The position has that position number attached to it as well. Okay. So job family group faculty. Then we get a little bit more specific with that job family. Then you've got your job profile, which is that regular faculty. And then you've got the individual position, which has that job profile on it. So for the next row down, now we're looking at a staff example, right? Information technology is that overall job family group umbrella. Software development is the job family. Job profiles, we have software development specialist 1, software development specialist 2, software development specialist 3, right? You probably have more than that. And then you have an individual position where you attach one job profile to that position and then hire into it. And then of course you got student worker example as well. Yeah.
So I'm a little confused by the student worker example. Wouldn't it like make better sense to be like student worker and then physical facilities and then student custodian? Because to me it's saying all the same thing.
So I'm not as close to the student currently what your student job titles or job profiles are. I don't, Catherine, do you have any insight there? As to why it would have been built that way? Okay.
I have student workers that are web developers and student workers that are office workers. And so I would imagine the office worker or web developer is like a job profile.
So, okay, thank you. Sorry, this is so on your position, and I might not have explained this well before, but you'll see this when we get into the job requisition. your position title doesn't necessarily mean your business title, right? Or your job title. So in this example, student worker 1 could apply to facilities. Student worker 1 could apply to maybe OIT. Student worker 1 could apply to kind of many things. But your student worker 1, like custodial worker 1, that could then have your job title and everything else attached to it on that actual position because it's in your specific department. I don't know if I just made it more confusing or less confusing.
So student,
Is that Rob out there?
Well, so do students?
Can Rob answer this question?
Hello, everyone.
Like,
We're
I
having
recognize
the
a few of
finance
you.
thing, or
we have some questions on, not to just put you on the spot, but
No,
to put you on
yeah.
the spot.
But that's
Um,
what I'm here for.
We have
I guess.
questions on how the job catalog is built around student workers.
It
And we can have her
is-
repeat the actual question if you'd like.
Oh. So this is obviously, the job catalog is obviously very helpful for structured positions. Our student jobs change a lot and they change very fast. So for our first version of the job catalog, we did not intend to include detailed job profiles for students. So it's very similar today. You have job levels for your students. You have student level 1 that has a pay range, student level 2 that has a pay range, 6. That's basically how the job profiles for students are structured. So what you will have your students do is primarily going to be in the job posting. The job profiles will be used for student positions, but they're associated with the kind of the leveling that we have for student employees right now.
So
So like
jo-
student
the
worker
job,
one.
So student worker 1 is the lowest range.
Pay range,
So there's pay ranges tied into the profiles.
so like level 1, level 2, level 3.
Yep.
Those pay ranges are the job profiles.
Correct.
Okay.
So there's student worker 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like, I think there's like 7 of them, but some of those get into like the RAs and the,
So
Some
title
grad
has
student
nothing
stuff.
to do with job profile, it's tied to the pay.
yeah, so these, think of these student ones as really quite generic.
So they can change the title and like the job description on the actual requisition.
Yeah, so the profile is separate from what you will see as the job title and the business title and the job posting. That's gonna be all stuff that you guys will curate and make sure is appropriate for the jobs that you're doing. We don't, like, for example, and maybe Catherine could speak more to this, like the compensation office does market match and salary surveys. They're doing that for full-time positions. They're not doing that for student positions and stuff like that. So that's another reason why the value to create job profiles for every single student position is just the value add to you and the value add to the organ, to BYU is just not there.
so for the positions, that's when you put the details, like, okay, this is office specialist 1, this is accounting specialist 1, something like that.
Yeah,
In
so
your position.
So there's a few ways to think about it, different analogies we've used. One is kind of the Russian doll, right? Everyone knows what a Russian doll is. She's asking, okay, so I have a job profile, then what, right? Or an onion, right? You're layering on these other attributes on top. So, right, the job profile is only describing a very small piece of the worker. The position then holds some information, and then the job posting holds some information. And then when you have an incumbent or someone who's in that position, right, they also hold information about what they do and who they are. So it's layers.
So like right now, I have web developers and I have office workers, and I cannot hire a web developer at the same lower rate that I hire an office worker. So is the job profile containing a pay range as well, like right now?
Yes.
So there'll still be like web developer, office worker, custodial, and there's pay ranges associated with those job profiles.
Yes.
For students.
Yeah, so you're gonna have, right, so you're gonna have probably,
There's RAs.
you're gonna have some student worker 1, some student worker 2, some student worker 3s, and those are the pay ranges, right? And then you're gonna slot in the right types of positions that align with the type of work that they're doing.
So they're gonna be
So your web developer might be a student worker 3 job profile. and then your,
But it's just like the halftime pay ranges they have now. that
Uh-huh.
we do. So,
Yeah.
you know, where if you look at the halftime student pay range thing and you go, oh, this job code is in student worker 3 level. This one is student worker 2.
yeah, so the Student Employment Office, right, still already publishes today what types of jobs they see fitting in these different ranges, and it's gonna map over to these things.
So if we select a job profile, does it then prompt us with, these are all the types of positions that are in student worker one?
So you,
Or vice versa?
so when you select, when I'm building a position, then if I'm gonna request a position. So as we know, the full-time positions are pretty managed carefully, right, by central HR. The student ones is really gonna be up to you because the ultimate driving factor for your students are your budget, right, just like it is today. So if you go in and you say, hey, I think I need 2 more student worker 2s, great, we'll make sure they're available to you. The question is then, how does that relate to when I'm creating the position? It'll be whatever's in the student worker 1 or 2. These job profiles are very generic. So what it's going to pre-populate on the position is really quite simple, right? So it is the pay range and maybe a few other little things, like that it's by default that it's, you know, like there's defaults about FICA exemption and about its exemption, like is it exempt or non-exempt? So there's some generic kind of defaults that'll be pulled in, but then really how it's described for the student ones is really going to be up on the position and the job posting side of things, where we may, on full-time positions, there might be more that's added to the profiles and more will default in. If that makes sense.
And we'll see some of this in, so we're gonna talk about positions in just a minute. We're gonna go look at a vacant position. You'll actually be able to see the job profile that's attached to that vacant position. Just a second.
How quick is it to create those new chairs for the student positions?
Super fast. We will be working to make sure Workday is preloaded, probably with more student positions than you need. Where the term we've used is buffer. So if you have, oh, look at
We
that.
just want, I mean, we knew.
So if you happen to have 10 level 1 students, so on the worker 1 profile, and 10 on level 2, we're going to add probably 1 or 2 extra so you have some wiggle room.
Yeah, because it changes so quickly, like
Yep.
for an RA. It's an RA position, but that could be filled by an undergraduate, first year graduate, second year graduate, this special grant, that Kira award that they got, and all of those are different.
Yeah, so it'll depend on kind of how each of the HR business partners wants to manage that in their area. We have, I know some organizations that their student staff, they have large student staffs, like even 100 students, that is though pretty static. They have about that all year long. Others, if you have a lot of TAs, or we're working with continuing education, right? Continuing education, they go from 5,000 students to no students in a few weeks, or vice versa, right? And so we're talking with them about some strategies they can use. They'll probably just leave open the positions that are open year round, even though they're not filled, just because they can, just so they're all there, staged and ready. It's like church, right? Some people love to take down and set up the chairs every meeting. I'm a fan of, let's just leave the chairs up if there's not another activity going on that we need the space for.
So do the operations specialists have a lot of power in making changes to the position? Like say the partner creates it or opens it up, at that point can the specialist make specifications for like the wage, the allocation, the for supervisors, all those details?
Some, yeah. So the range is in the profile, but the rate that the person's getting is not in there, right? That's going to be really depends on how technically you look at it. The rate is really on the person themselves, so it's not really on the position or the profile. The rate that you end up deciding to give a student.
Be able to input those these details.
Yeah, so when you're hiring, right, you're gonna say what it is, and it'll show when you're going in, you're adding, and they'll get to this, right? When you go in, you're adding the rate, it'll pull up, and it has the min, the mid, and the max kind of for the range, and so you can kind of see where they even are when you're proposing their rate.
So sorry, follow up, with these specialists, can they submit these changes and these hires in behalf of faculty, for example?
So yes, so a manager, which faculty, if they have TAs or students reporting to them, that's an inherited security role, so they will have access to initiate transactions for the people that they are responsible for. Initiation, though, is handled by all of us, right? So ops specialists, a partner, a manager, someone in an HRS if needed be, can all initiate those transactions. They asked this in the hall. So recruiting is unique because part of the recruiting process of getting them through all the stages is an ad hoc security role. So as the manager, they're tied and they own the position, so they'll have some default permissions to see what's going on. But then who is the person who's taking it step by step and facilitating that can be assigned on each requisition. So it could be someone who regularly supports them, so their org trees business partner or ops specialist. It could be someone else because someone's out of town or something like that. It can help them get through the requisition. It can be themselves too, right? If they say, oh, I'm going to do this, it's so easy, I'm going to go in, I'm going to be the primary recruiter for this position, they can do that too. They could be involved, or they could, because the initiation step can be done by someone else and the primary recruiter can be someone else. A faculty member or any manager for that case may not actually be involved in the recruiting. I mean, hopefully they're involved in the interview and some of the process maybe, but it just depends too, right? Am I derailing you guys?
No, this is good.
This
This
is
is
fun.
good. If we get too much into recruiting, we might pause till next week, but keep going. Keep going.
I have a technical businessy question about the chair or the position number for a student position, being an RA or a TA. So it's tied to the cost center. Do you also have to tie it to the activity work tag or the grant or whatever that it might be paid out of, or the person who's going to initiate the hire at those?
She asked a question about some of the financial attributes of a worker. So when you are hiring them, you will initiate the hire, and then part of it is their organization assignments. So there's a Workday kind of uses that in a generic sense. So there are, so your supervisory org is from an HR, the kind of the primary go-to organization.
The most important one.
For finance,
Talk about
yeah, most
Most
important
important
one,
one.
no matter what, right?
Don't tell the finance people.
Cost centers, you're a zebra. That's the term I've heard. I don't know if that's the right thing.
Zebra, unicorn.
So cost center, if you're a finance person, right? Cost center is your go-to kind of organization thing. So that's assigned at the hire. Your location is assigned. For faculty, for your full-time faculty, they're in an organization called an academic unit as well. There are other optional things. So there's activities and other work tags. For a worker, their default compensation, their default finance thing won't be a grant. It will be added on later. They have to have a core cost center as their default
So
way
we
to
have
pay
to
them.
set up multiple chairs for every possible activity and grant.
No, so
No.
when you're hiring, when you're putting the worker in there, so you don't have, your positions don't have to be set up with all those
Yeah,
nuances.
that's what I was asking.
It's when you're hiring somebody, then you get to pick. And some of those can default in, and some of those you can change when you're hiring.
Okay, much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some that are, there's BYU also, we have a custom organization. So how we are facilitating, there's a little bit, as you know, right? The way faculty hires work is pretty complicated compared to our students on the other side. So there's actually on each on the transactions as well too, there's a hiring office. So that's going to help you know this is a student position. So this goes to central ops to get approved. This
We'll
is a faculty.
see that on the rec
This
in just a
goes
minute.
to faculty hiring and the faculty office. This goes to CE. So there's 4 hiring offices, and so that helps route where all the things will go and get approved. Too. We had one up here.
So
So with positions, if I have a research assistant position that is an undergrad, and then they become a grad student, so then that their student
range
worker
changes.
range would change, and their job, like title, would change. Is it recommended to have an undergrad research assistant position and a graduate research position and transfer the student to that? Or take that position and change it to match the student?
Did you guys hear the question?
Great question.
It is a great question, and
Be a
it
good example for
probably
next week.
comes to preference. I mean, it depends on if you're gonna need to go back, and if you're gonna end up having an undergraduate do that again in the future, or if this is just a one person, we only have one position, and this just happens to be because of the incumbent, right? It might just depend.
Okay.
Like if
So
you have a
if we
lot,
do
you
have-
might just have a bunch of both, and you just move people around, or if it's like, I just have onesie twosies, it's just easier to move the, change the edit the
Always
position.
have an undergrad research assistant and a graduate research assistant. Then that's when we would transfer.
I think that would be easier, but
Well, I was gonna say, so week 3, we're gonna do change job, which is where all of these will come into play. And you'll see there's some where, when you just move that worker, maybe you're just changing their manager, maybe the position is going with that employee, and then maybe there does need to be some edits to the position. But there's others where you have to have a vacant position in order to move that person in. And yeah, I think it's kind of more of an if then, or
probably
preference.
finding the most efficient thing immediately and then also long term, because you set up all these chairs, and if you move too many of them, then you have this hole over here. Then you have to either bring them back or create new positions. So part of one of the value adds of having positions is also position history, so you can see kind of who's been in and out of it. So if you edit it and move it and then create a new undergrad one, then that other student doesn't have a history, and there's pros and cons to that, because you may or may not have a lot of time to analyze this, so it just depends. Back over here. And then,
So I'm saying that this potentially could be really good for those of us that work with graduate students that are on a contract. So for instance, I'll have a graduate student that will be on a contract at the end of the semester, and it goes till the end of the semester, but then we've got to do a new contract, for the next semester.
you're gonna love this.
So
They could
this
stay in the
is
same
gonna
position.
simplify, right? Because they're staying in the same position.
They can stay in the same position, and then each contract is in Workday, and this is week 4 or 5,
I don't actually
period
know.
activity pay. So
Oh.
it's down the road. So then their activity that they're doing, Workday calls it period activity pay. You would be then giving them a new contract, but you don't need to hire and terminate them and go through that churn.
Yeah, so that's really awesome.
Oh.
Yay.
Yeah, that works
Really?
great for any person on contract. So same thing, adjuncts is gonna fit into this kind of piece of this area too, where if you have people doing contracts, they can stay in their position and you give them a new assignment, and that gives them a new pay, but their position, they can stay seated. This sounds like a good, yeah.
So, there's gonna be a place where we can go to and see all the positions, whether it's filled or unfilled.
So that was the org chart when we looked in there's a couple different ways, but the supervisory orgs that we were looking at earlier.
Yeah, so that, and it shows the faculty and how many they have, but is there a place to go and just see the whole, not in a little picture thing, but just.
A report.
So there's,
spreadsheet.
so there's, right, the nice pretty pictures, and you can click on them and navigate through the org chart. Each org also has a page within Workday, and you can see the members and the attributes and the children and the parents of that org. Then I don't know off the top of my head. I'm thinking too, there are some reports you could run to also see, I don't know the names of the reports, and the reporting is always an option. Everything in Workday is reportable. So if we needed to come up with for your college, here's everything in every org, right, we can do stuff like that.
Or your department.
Yeah. And it could be localized too. Some of the nice things about Workday, because there's these relationships between things cascade really well. So you can pick manager and then say include all of the subordinate organizations too. So when you run reports, you'll see that. There's usually a checkbox. So if like you're supporting a college and you can run a report on just the dean and the subordinates there, or you can check a box that says, and all the subordinate organizations and all the people in them. It'll cascade down through the org chart and pull everybody into that report.
Is it an Excel report, or is that?
So it's in the UI. There's great features. You can schedule reports. You can download reports. Right. So there's always pros and cons, right? The most you can experience in Workday is great, especially when it comes to confidential information. We always would invite people to be mindful of that and what you download on your computer, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So you want one more?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So I have a double question.
Oh.
She's known.
Does that come with an IOU? Is that what it is? How that works?
First one is, so I understand that managers, so say faculty are submitting their own hire, that it will go directly to central for approval. Is there a way for them to route it to the ops specialist so that we can verify that the wage and the account code, all the accuracy is there?
So the person who is initiating and approving that
Say it's a professor.
it doesn't loop back to anybody else in the work, right?
I understood that if they're the manager of that student, in this example, that it goes directly to central for
Correct.
approval. So I'm asking, is there a way that the manager can
You could tell
route
them
it
not
to an operations specialist?
You want them
for
to do it
approval?
for you?
Well, if they are, I'm
She wants
afraid
them
that
to
they
not
will
do it.
just-
Oh, you don't want them
So
to
maybe
do it?
we want it if they do it, we can check it before it goes
Submit it
further.
wrong, so like, is there a way for us to catch that before it gets to central? Can they route it to us?
There isn't an approval step for an ops person after that.
Can you put one in? So instead, we just have to tell managers that they can't approve directly.
Well,
that
they can't
need to-
submit hires,
they
they just
can
need someone to do it.
You have a comment?
Well, it's kind of a question to you, but I believe that an operations specialist still has visibility. So maybe a conversation needs to happen outside of Workday saying, when you're ready to approve that, let me know, I'd like to look at it. And then before it gets sent. So I'm kind of.
No, I think there's some of it's how much does the tool want to enforce versus how much we're also training and communicating with our people. I mean, we've even seen Jill's involved in the faculty hiring. There's some of it that's ultra complicated, and it's like, well, Workday doesn't need to juggle that piece of this special meeting they have, and they have these PDF forms and these packets that they review. Like, that's not a tool thing. That's a process thing that can happen outside of Workday too.
So we could just tell the faculty to not submit, that's our job, so they don't mess it up.
However, I mean, some of that's.
So, but we can do that.
Yeah.
If that's what. our
So how
job
you
is.
guys? That's part of, I think, some of the activities. I'm not as close to I think they're calling them production dress rehearsals. There's meetings with each organization to see how you are operationalizing Workday. So when someone says, "Hey, I need a hire," there's going to be a kind of a plan of how do you respond to that. So if a faculty says, "Hey, I need a TA," you may say, "Tell me their name, I'll take care of it." And that could be how you.
That's what I want.
That could be how your department does it, right?
Because we understood that the manager has to be the one submitting.
There's still
So
steps
that's
that are
a big
specific to
problem.
the manager. So I think when we get to week 3, I think
or
is
3, yeah.
hiring. So
Okay.
we'll see more of that and we can keep
Okay,
talking
and
about
part 2, this was shorter, I promise. Is student employees.
What
can
department are
they
you from?
be-
Alive.
Okay, so student employees, can they be ops specialists and also submit hires?
So the question about
What a
students participating in our security roles is really great. I've talked to some of you in the room. I know I recognize some faces. There are pros and cons of that, right? So when you have scale, right, that totally makes sense. Students, it has been recommended. So it's been recommended. Initially, it was recommended for collaborative units. Students are something you need to look at on a case-by-case basis. So the trick with the students is there's a lot of security that goes along with that role. So if you feel comfortable in training them and having them understand the confidentiality of things, there will be situations where if they are a student in your college and they have a faculty member, like they have HR access to see all of the information about that. So if you have central HR, you guys have students in your office. There's students that work other places. As a student, I worked in the financial aid office and I got to see students 1040s and their parents' tax information and also how much they owed. And I was trained, right, to make sure that was confidential and that was treated appropriately. So that's going to be a conversation to have in your college. Do you feel comfortable with your students having HR access to all of your organization or what they support?
So it's possible.
It is possible. So that part of what you guys have submitted is your SDM model and who and how many, that goes into that. I don't think that from what I understand, there's not a lot of orgs that have students assigned right now, but I don't know that prohibits anyone from asking for more.
It sounds like
It's
that
very
decision was
common.
made by the colleges then?
Yeah.
Each SDM is a college and they made that decision?
I think at this point.
Okay.
I think at this point, all the department heads were asked to say, what does this look like for you? How many do you have? So we have security assignments that we build.
Thank you.
I think there's only a handful of students, and
Well,
I
in
think
our
they're all
college,
in
it's very
central
common.
HR right now.
It's very common. We all do it in our college over here.
Go for it. I mean, you actually just went through like 4 slides. for me,
Okay.
So we're actually moving forward.
These
so
guys
great.
are pulling it forward.
That's
Okay.
great, great.
Why aren't there levels?
So there are, right? So your students,
Because our students should not have access to faculty information whatsoever, but they should have access to hiring other students, catering, that kind of thing.
so the security is designed around the organizations. So if your organizations are, it's where the security is assigned, so what organization. But it depends, right? If you have a student ops person on an organization that only has students in it, then they only see the people in their organization that they're assigned to serve or support. So if you're a student operations specialist and I'm assigned to the dean, then I get the whole college, right? But if I am a operations specialist and I'm assigned to the dean's assistant who doesn't have any faculty that works for them, then I only support the people in that organization. So it depends on.
Dial it down by individual faculty.
So you could dial it
They're
to
the
organizations,
When you
right?
say that, are we talking about if students are hiring for the faculty? So they still can't see the faculty from the
So
because they're hiring RAs and DAs for the faculty.
So their assignment is likely not to support that individual faculty, but maybe all of your faculty, right?
Yes, correct.
And then they can see
So
all
their
the
assignment
faculty
is not for John and Brian and Susan and Sally, right? They report to the chair and they may be supporting the chair and everyone under the chair, which would include the faculty.
They would
Yeah.
have to be.
So we don't want that.
So we're just being transparent of, if you make that decision, that's what it ends up
Does it
with.
have to be the whole department or none? Or can we dial it down and say, okay, this student hires for this faculty, this faculty, this faculty, this faculty. So they support those supervisory organizations.
So the maintenance for that, I think you could see would be very complicated. So they've asked that security requests, you have one assignment. So you support one place. So if you need to support these multiple people, you go up in the org tree to then get
But
all of
if
them.
the security stays with the position, then don't we just have to do that once for that position?
Could be.
But would you always have one student to just support those 3 forever and ever?
Well, if you gotta hire 400 students, then yeah, that's what you would do so that you don't have to do it all yourself.
And there's different models, so right, and there's, and,
I would 100% be like, nope, I have a student and that's all that they do,
Yeah.
or whatever.
so Lauren and I talked about this in the hall. There are different organizations, just so I don't know, everyone knows their own kind of piece of how they do things in their college. So I think it's good to share some of these things that other people are doing. So there are places where, right, each faculty, and this is the faculty conversation. So, and it could be something else, right? In another department, each manager has two students that report to them. My home department right now is IT. We have 60 student developers who help us write websites and do code and stuff like that. They are not assigned to individual developers to manage. There is one student manager, and he has all 60 students report to him. And his job is making sure that they're hired, that they're trained, that they're onboarded, and everything. So he does all of their support. And the example I used was it's kind of like a mission. You're called to serve and then assigned to labor. So everyone reports to him from an HR standpoint. So he does their time, he does their hiring, he does all that stuff. And then they're assigned to different development teams who are working on different projects.
And that's outside of.
And so from an HR, no, so even in Workday, it would work that way, right? So he is their manager. They may be working with somebody else. So you could have all the TAs report to you, and then you just say, you're gonna go in this class, and you're gonna go in that class, you're gonna go in that class. So there's pros and cons about these different models, but there's other options to consider how you design your work.
If that's the case, then who's, like, you're approving all of their hours, or
In his case, he is. In his case, his job is just that, though.
just that?
I don't think that will work for because
Yeah.
only the professor would know if this TA or
Absolutely right.
RA are working,
Absolutely right.
if they give reports, right?
Yeah, and so he's an advantage because of proximity, and we also do project time tracking, and so they're held accountable in different ways.
It's not an active
So-
unit.
So it depends, right?
None of those student workers are needing to be in HR or finance in Workday, so they have no security access in Workday anyway. None of those web developers, right?
No, but how those students get supported is different because of how they're organized from an HR standpoint. That's why I was bringing up that example. So yeah, not all will work, but those are considerations, and that's where some of this, when we talked about HR business partners, that's why we realized there is a strategy element to these positions, and knowing your space and knowing how you guys operate and knowing what your demands are throughout the year, thinking about that and thinking about some of these levers that are available to pull and know, okay, do we need to change how things are organized? Do we need to think about how they're supported and who supports them, or where that support is coming from? So those are all things that we're trying to provide a good tool set, and that's where we will want to partner with everyone and figure all this out together.
So glad you were just hanging out in the hall so I could pull you in.
Alright, just to kind of clarify this, so if we have a student operations
Life sciences is what I heard about you guys. right?
Yeah.
A student operational specialist that's hired under, like, one of us operational specialists, then would they be able to hire for the professors, but
So-
not see the professors?
Where you sit in the org is different than where you support in the organization. So the security team has asked that everyone has one assignment of where they support, right? So if you have 10 faculty you want them to support, you would go up the organizational tree to the chair, for
So they
example.
would have to be hired under the chair?
No, they don't. So where you live and what you support can be separate.
Remember, that was the report that we pulled, workers I support or my support roles, where you saw all the organizations.
Right, so, sorry.
So you can have a student who sits, you could have a student who sits in your department who supports the president with something. That's not a real
So
example,
there's-
but
Really no way for them to be able to hire for the professors without seeing the professors. Like,
so right,
salary and
you
all
have
that.
your dean up here, and the dean has, this is overly simplistic, right? maybe 3, right, chairs. And then there's faculty under them.
And staff.
Could be, yep.
That's us.
And then if there's students, maybe, I don't know. Right, so this student employee who lives here, you would pick, who do they need to support? Do they need to support this org? Do they need to support this org? Do they need to support this org? And same thing for all of you, right? Your colleges have decided what parts of the organization you support. So if you are a business partner, it's likely that you support the dean and down. Or operational specialists, right? Some of you guys are set up in departments or at the chair level, and then so that's what you'll support too. So same thing, if you have multiple operations specialists, maybe some of you in this room are this way. If you have a peer who also has the same security as you, you may not be able to support, if you're out of town, you may not be able to support them based on your assignment. I'll get out of your hair.
No.
I'm happy to come visit. I'll come visit as you guys are doing these. I'll try to pop in and we can do
We're
questions.
always on Tuesdays.
And I'll
Yes,
try-
they're
on
the Tuesday
Tuesdays.
group, yeah,
Tuesday
Life
group.
Sciences Tuesdays.
And we'll have others, right? So Catherine's an expert here. She's here. She's going to be the facilitator on Tuesdays, I think, right? And we'll have others. So we have our program participants, so our program team members. So recruiting is a topic. So I know Mish and Jill, we're trying to be able to pop in this week or next week. There's other topics. So as the topics come, we'll have other people that can pop in and support and answer questions you guys have too.
Yay. Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Did you guys were there treats up here when we started?
There were, we may have eaten some. Okay, so.
Okay.
Oh, chocolate, we're getting chocolate? Okay, home stretch here. So we are going to, so now we're actually gonna create a job requisition. I skipped a whole bunch of slides, but truly it's exactly what we just talked about. So when you do get a chance to, when these are posted, you get a chance to look at them, do take a look. Talks about how to request a position, and what was the other one? The concept of, we don't want to close positions. We want to leave them open so we can hire into them again. We've got those buffering positions, so that if you need more student worker positions, they should already be there when we go live. So for job requisitions, all of these we've talked about with the exception, the first two we've talked about, we haven't talked about the job rec or the posting. So we talked about job profiles, right? Job profile is then on a position. A job requisition is essentially a request to hire, right? It's a request to recruit and post a job. The job requisition will have the position attached to it. We'll create one here in just a minute. From there, our hiring offices, I believe it's the recruiting coordinators, will then post the jobs out on the various recruiting websites. And then eventually we will gather candidates and we'll be able to hire. Okay, so what is a job requisition? Just kind of talked about this. Again, you're going to attach your position to your job rec. Then you're going to have candidates apply to that job requisition. That is then how you're going to hire. Two different types of job requisitions. So the first one is just a job rec. I also call this a hiring requisition. This is essentially a one-to-one, right? So I need to hire a full-time faculty. I need to hire a new trainer. I need to hire a department coordinator or whatever that equivalent would be. You're hiring for a very specific position and for a specific headcount. You all will be able to create these hiring or these job requisitions. Managers, this is I think what we were talking about before, hiring managers can create these as well. And then of course recruiters, recruiting coordinators, all of our hiring offices can create these as well. Evergreen requisitions, just another type of requisition that can be created. These are only going to be created by recruiters or recruiting administrators and will be used sparingly, but these are for those positions that we are just constantly hiring for. So I believe there's certain departments that'll use these. I think dining is going to use them for student workers. Again, it's a role that we're constantly hiring for. I think there's some CE positions that we're also going to use these evergreens for. These are high turnover positions. So this is a method to recruit candidates constantly because we want our candidate pool to stay large for those roles. We've got chocolates.
I'm gonna do some reverse trick or treating.
There's chocolate coming.
This is how much I love you guys.
All right, so we're gonna go in and create a job rec. We're actually gonna do two things. We did skip over an activity, so we're gonna do both of those at once. So here's how we're gonna do it. I'm gonna keep going, y'all, because we're still trying to get out of here at 4:30. Yeah.
Can you hire without creating a job requisition and posting it?
Technically, yes. However, we would need to ask about the rules on when we could do that, right? And again, today, what do you do, right? Is there a situation in which you can hire without posting a job? For students, okay, then yeah. Oh yeah, the expedited hires,
You
yeah.
can always hire them, just, you know the student's name, you don't post the job, you just go ahead and hire them.
Oh, yes, for students, yes.
But if you wanna post a job for a student, you can. And then for other, like, special cases, you can direct hire someone as well.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Okay.
Let's have everyone pull up and I'll help them.
Yes. So I was gonna, we'll do the first part all together and then Okay, so we're gonna do this part all together. We're all gonna create a job requisition because we skipped over another activity. Everybody, we're just gonna do this all together because Lauren is gonna go around and make sure everybody has a vacant position. So we're gonna go up to the search bar. This is super important. We had a lot of questions about this yesterday. So we just talked about how you as a ops specialist or an HRBP, you can create a job requisition. A manager, I'm a hiring manager, I've got direct reports, I've got a vacant seat. I can also create a job requisition. Workday decided to be super, super confusing about this. And if you are a hiring manager as well, so if you're in this room and you have direct reports, you're a manager, you have access to both tasks. But you want to make sure you're using the correct one for your role as an ops specialist. So create job requisition is what we want to use in our ops specialist or business partner role, create job requisition. So go ahead and type that in. There is another task that our hiring managers can use, and that's called start job requisition. And it's going to look a little bit different because our hiring managers, again, they can submit a job rec, but it's a lot simpler. They have a more simplified and streamlined process. So create job rec versus start job rec. So go ahead and type create job requisition into your search bar. Okay. And then go ahead and select that task. So hopefully everybody sees create job rec, not start job rec, create job rec. All right, yours might look slightly different than mine. Well, it should look the same, although you might have, I'm looking around, maybe not, you might have your supervisory organization default in if you are a manager, which even if it defaults in, you can X out of it. So again, we need to tell Workday what is the supervisory organization we are creating this requisition for. Essentially, we're saying what supervisory organization is my vacant position in. So you have to have that vacant position before you can create the job rec. So the easiest way to search for a supervisory organization is just by the manager's name, right? So if you know who that hiring manager is or who that supervisory organization manager is, you would type that name in. So I know for mine is Max Manager. Okay. Now Lauren is going to go around and tell you all, is that the easiest way to do this?
Yes. So the easiest way, if you manage people right now, type your own name in and see if a training staff position opens up. When you click on positions, it should say a number and then it should say training staff.
And it says unfilled in parentheses. So just make sure it says unfilled.
Currently manage, I have a manager for you. So I'll just kind of go around and give you that name as a manager. So raise your hand. If you're not seeing it pop up, You're gonna type in.
Yep, so this is gonna take us just a minute to make sure everybody has a vacant position. And if you wanna play around with it, just start typing in the names of different managers that you support until you eventually find a vacant, unfilled position. It does need to be a staff position, so not students. So that's why she has some ones that we've already created for you. Yeah, so that one's not vacant, right? You have it. So you have
Is there, I think it's just Joby.
Is there a job there?
Are you finding it?
I enjoy some chocolate every once in a while. No, someone's doing that. Similar.
Again, it's just based for
These guys live it.
Doesn't matter, this is the same, right?
Yeah, that'll work. That's staff. Okay.
Oh, no, that's.
Oh, I need to get that around. Okay. Rob, leave with the candy.
Yes, you took it with them.
Oh, man.
Oh, no, the chocolate. It might have been.
A couple on this side, but. Okay. Okay. No, we're not there yet. No, so just make sure you have, oh, you need to, yeah, just look right there. We'll get there in a minute, yep.
Oh, I scrambled to say okay.
That's that.
Sorry, we just were creating position.
Everybody over here has.
Okay, it has to be a staff position.
How do you know if it's a staff position from that list? If you know, you know.
You can also.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I keep thinking that's like a real staff. Oh, it might not let you. You can always open another tab and look at some of the position details. So I'll show you how to do that here in just a second.
At some point, we'll be able to see it,
You'll
right?
just know, yeah.
Okay, we should be good.
But I'll show you a way that you can check.
I think everyone's good to click OK.
Yeah, okay.
Now you're all gonna follow me.
Yep. So go ahead and click OK once you have your position in there. Thanks for bearing with us there. All right. So we're going to go through a lot of this information. You're going to see, hopefully, how much information actually is populating based on that position that we selected. So I'm using a training staff. Everybody's using staff. A lot of you are using the training staff as well. But I know some are using some others, which is totally fine.
Fake information.
Fake information.
Okay,
None of
so
this
it's
is
not-
real.
Yep. So it's not gonna be your department's cost center and whatnot.
Yes, yes. You were just creating positions quickly. Okay, so the first thing we need is to add in these recruiting details. Of course, anywhere where you see a star means it's required. However, we're going to be really sneaky because sometimes there are things that are required that don't have a star. So I will try to call those out. So anywhere where you see the little pencil icon, you can click that and just open up these fields so we can add in some data. We always need a reason. So you can go ahead and select this create job requisition administrative. You can see your different options there, right? So this should be self-explanatory. This doesn't necessarily drive anything. These are for reporting purposes. But again, hopefully you can choose the correct option, right? Why are we posting this job? Is this a brand new position? Is this a promotion? So somebody was promoted out of this position, somebody retired out of this position, somebody was terminated, or somebody transferred, right? So I'm going to just say resignation. Somebody resigned from this position. So some fields, if you have the data and you want to enter it, you certainly can. So replacement for, right? I can go in here and say this is a replacement for a specific person. Again, reporting purposes only. That doesn't necessarily drive anything. It's not a required field. Recruiting instruction. This is how you're going to tell the recruiting coordinator where you want this posted. Is this something you only want posted internally? Is this something you want posted both internally and externally, or externally only?
We're not supposed to.
Yeah, we'll talk about job posting sites here in just a second. Yep.
Yeah, but then when you select that recruiting instruction, have Catherine posting the job. She's a recruiting coordinator. She sees what you selected. You want an external and internal, and she's able to look at that and post it accordingly. Why not? The recruiting coordinator is post the jobs.
So if we select something that BYU's like, no, we don't do that, then they fix it for us?
Yeah, they fix it, they send it back to you, they leave a comment. Yeah, you're real life.
They'll just write back and say no.
They'll write back.
So I should review it and see which one they want, external and internal. Okay.
All right, so the next field there, recruiting start date, that's going to default to today. Now you can change that, right? So maybe you are way ahead of the game and you're like creating all your requisitions, but you don't want this posted, or you don't really want to start recruiting for this role until October. You can push that out if you'd like. By default, it's going to assume you probably want this, you're ready to start recruiting for this job now. Target hire date. So this is not the posting end date. So let's keep that in mind, not the posting end date. Target hire date, truly, when do you hope to hire this position by? So we'll say.
A little tidbit here, I'm just gonna jump in. We
Yes,
want to
please.
select today's date for the target
Oh,
hire
sorry.
date. If you select a future date and then you want to hire someone before, you're gonna have a problem. So if I say I want to hire someone in a month, you actually found someone you want to hire tomorrow, you'll have a problem. So select today's date. Yeah. Then ask that about target date. So
Okay, good.
target
Thank you.
end date, I'll just jump in on here. We're not gonna fill that in. Never fill it in. Leave it blank.
Okay, so target hire date, is that always? They're always going to select today's date? All right. Hot off the press, we had a meeting today with Mish and got some information just for you. Again, don't tell your people from yesterday. Just kidding. We'll tell your people from yesterday.
Can you make it auto-populate like recruiting?
I wish. No. Some things can, some things just workday delivered. It won't let us. Now, what we can do, so obviously training materials, things like that. This might be something we can ask to get added to our help text, which would show up kind of here at the top of the page to just remind us, oh, don't forget target hire date should be today. Yeah. All right. So, sorry.
So do jobs like that not have to be open for 2 weeks anymore, or is that different?
Do jobs have to be open for 2
We're
weeks?
still gonna have the same legal requirements, but it hasn't been 2 weeks for quite a while. It's only 5 days. 5 business
It's okay. She says it's only 5 business days.
Even for faculty?
Oh, I don't know about faculty.
Oh,
But
we're not
for
talking about
staff, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this section, just going back up to the top, we did our reason, our recruiting instruction. We have our recruiting start date as today. target hire date always today, okay, and no target end date. Okay. The last field here, I just kind of skipped over. Referral payment plan, you can open that drop down. There's only one. Again, if hopefully if there's a role that you're hiring for that does qualify there, I'm gonna go ahead and just leave it empty for today.
Yeah, you'll be using that a lot for faculty, not as much for staff.
All right. So I just clicked next. So now I'm on this job details. So if you're looking at your screen, you've got your tabs over on the left. So those are all of the different pages we're going to kind of scroll through. So you can either use that next button to make sure you hit every page, or you can just kind of follow along, clicking the different tabs on the left-hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and click the pencil. And here's that job posting title. So this is defaulting based on that position title, right? So when the position was created, the position itself has a title. This is defaulting to that same title, but you can edit it. So this is where I think we were talking about that example of student workers. So it might be a student worker 1, but this is where you can say custodian 1 or web designer 1 or whatever those examples were that we were just sharing. For today, go ahead and just title this something that you will be able to recognize and remember. So your name or training or the date with your initials. I'm going to just do my initials. Yes, make it unique. Your dog's name, your cat's name, your kid's name. Do you want to finish that? Do you want to do it since you talked to me? Sure, no, you don't have to. You sure? Okay. Is there anything else? Okay. All right. So hopefully everybody has their title. If you scroll down, the next field that's starred is job profile. So you should, if you're using one of the training roles, it probably says training assistant 1. So that's what mine is. That job profile is, again, attached to the position. So that's defaulting in. And we're going to leave it. Yeah. I want to call out position description. So we were talking to Mish, I believe this one was yesterday, maybe it was last Friday. All my days are running together. Down the road, so in the future, when we've all settled from Go Live and everything is just working beautifully, another great feature about job profiles is it becomes your job description library. So we can have clean, wonderful, beautiful job descriptions attached to these job profiles. Now at this point, I mean, you can imagine that's a huge undertaking. So at this point, they're not there yet, right? So we don't have job descriptions loaded. So currently, and even if they were loaded, I will say that you can you'd still be able to edit them, right? So again, we were talking about student workers, right? You would need to adjust that job description to match whatever it is that you're hiring for within your department. So for this position description, you will still be copying and pasting from your job description library or however you're currently doing that today. For today in training, feel free just to put whatever. It doesn't. We don't really care what you put in your job description today. Yeah.
Is this the job description, i.e. the thing that is like 30 pages long, or is this the advertisement that you want to put on there? Different.
This is the advertisement.
Okay.
That's going to be posted when someone
So
goes and
this
looks.
is not really the job description, this is a position
Right.
advertisement.
It's like when we do the job ad template.
Okay, great.
Job ad template. Okay, thank you. That's what we will use going forward. It's the job ad template. Awesome. So go ahead and just type whatever you want in there. We don't, doesn't matter for today. All right, and then scroll down a little bit further, and you should have a few more fields that populate for you. And hopefully these look familiar from what we talked about earlier. We have our worker subtype. Now, our worker type, we actually chose, or it defaulted from the position way back at the very beginning of this job rec. We're all hiring employees, not contingent workers. So our worker subtype defaulted from the position. These all should be staff worker subtypes. Time type also defaulted. These are, well, mine's full-time. I think all the training ones are full-time. If you're using a different one, it might be part-time, which is fine as long as it's staff. Primary location, mine is the Crabtree building, and then the primary job posting location would be BYU, which is central.
What if I don't have a time?
If yours does not, I'm hearing a lot. Okay, so if yours does not, that's fine. Go ahead and just choose it. You can choose it. It should, I mean, your options should be.
No, I don't have an option.
Oh, you don't have an option. I'm so sorry.
I don't have the field.
That's okay. I think I've selected on the position. I'll look into it. You're fine for now.
Yeah,
Let's just go
yeah.
ahead and select it.
No, just keep going. Interesting.
It could have been based on the position.
All right.
Okay. So some do,
So,
some don't.
well, so again, good, that's a good example of what is being driven by the position, right? So again, it should have been chosen on the position. It actually could have been that maybe mine was not chosen, and so I'm able to go in and select it. But we'll go back and take a look at it. Again, we were making all these vacant positions very quickly today. All right. If you keep scrolling down, there's, again, items that are defaulting that you don't need to adjust. So comp details, you'll see it's grayed out because we can't change it, right? So this is showing the compensation grade that's on that position. And then the last section, you can click in there, so it is editable, but we want to leave it as is. The questionnaires that will default on the application, right? So this, the recruiting system, again, is very robust, has been built out for all of your different hiring scenarios. So if the job, so the questions that an applicant needs to answer on the application will change based on if it's a staff position, if it's a faculty position, if it's a student position. So because this is staff, those questionnaires are defaulting right into the job requisition. And again, you'll see all this when you log in as an applicant and apply.
Will you be able to add more or?
Add more questions?
I don't think so. There are standard questions that have to be asked. And I know there's a little bit of flexibility with PeopleSoft, but I believe Mish told me there's not going forward with Workday. But maybe that's something we can confirm.
Yeah,
with
we'll
her.
confirm with her
Mhm.
about that. That's a good question.
All right, so once you get to the bottom of that screen, go ahead and click next. The next section is skills. And for now, the instruction is, unless me told you any different today, as it was a month ago, we can just skip over this, right? So this is all part of what Workday calls the skills framework, where it will pull out relevant skills from a job description and then basically have that available within the requisition. It's all, again, kind of tied to those job profiles and job descriptions, kind of has that holistic, what Workday calls their skills cloud. It'll be on your profile, all of that as well. It's very robust. And again, something that in the future, BYU can adopt to use on your job requisitions and other areas as well. For now, skip right over it. So next is organization. So we talked about this quite a few times. This is one of the screens that actually Rob was mentioning as well. So these are the organizations that are defaulting based on the position, right? So company, everybody's part of a company, and the company is always, well, pretty much always BYU. Your cost center will probably look weird. We just, again, chose one at random unless you chose an actual position that's in your organization. Those are attached to the position. So they will default. However, what was that? Oh, cannot edit them. However, if I scroll down, we did have the question about activities, right? So you've got activity all the way down here at the bottom if you needed to add this to a specific grant or activity within a grant. That field's down here at the bottom.
You can edit the program and fund, but not the cost center here. It's attached to the position. Yeah.
Yep.
You can put tab.
Right, down here. Experience.
Yep.
Yep. This is where, yeah, you experiential learning.
Right now, if a faculty member has a class code associated with it,
Oh, right here, right. You said class code? Yeah. Yep. The one that you, so as Lauren mentioned, you can update the program and the fund if you needed to. Everything else defaults from the position. You always want to check this hiring office. So mine is defaulting to staff hiring office, which is what we want. You have 4 options. You've got staff, student, faculty. What am I missing? Staff, student, faculty, CE? Continuing ed, thank you. So again, should be pretty self-explanatory, right? Which ones need to be routed to which hiring office. This, I believe, defaults from the position. So hopefully that position was created with this already included. But if not, double check, triple check, make sure we've got a hiring office listed there based on the position.
Yeah, and going back to the cost center stuff, can business partners in the room, can you edit those? Are you able? No? Business partners? No. The cost center.
All right. Any questions on organizations?
I need to know why.
Yeah.
Can you remind us,
Okay.
what program to take? I like to pick a random one and just only here.
So you can't attach random programs and funds to cost centers. They have to connect, and so you can't just say, I'm gonna attach this program to this cost center. So if you leave it blank, you would know at Go Live which ones you're gonna use.
It's got a red asterisk, right? So that means you can't edit it.
All right. Any other questions on organizations? We're almost done with the rec. Home stretch. All right, go ahead and click next. Attachments. So my understanding is the only job requisitions that require attachments are faculty. So if you're not posting a faculty job or submitting a rec for a faculty job, you can skip over attachments. The last page or the last tab is assign roles. This is super important. You will get an error message if you don't add this, which is great, right? We definitely need to add our primary recruiter. So again, Rob mentioned this before. Adding a primary recruiter to the rec basically says this individual has the security on this requisition to manage the candidates, to move candidates along in the process all the way through, up to hire. So you want to click add and we'll add the role. You can just click that drop down. You'll see there's a couple other options. Those are going to be very specific to certain instances. Primary recruiter is the one that needs to be on every single requisition. For today, for training, go ahead and assign yourself. So we all should be our own primary recruiter. So you'll select.
This could be used if the manager was creating a job rec and they wanted to assign you as the primary recruiter. You're going to help manage this afterwards. So
All right. The last tab over on the left is just the summary tab. So that is just pulling all of that data into one long screen. You can scroll through. You still have the edit button, so the pencil icon, so you can go back and adjust anything if you missed anything or need to make any last minute changes. Once you've gotten through all of that, go ahead and click submit. I'll leave my screen here for just a second in case anybody has any questions. Yeah.
Can we have 2 primary recruiters?
That's a great question.
I think you would assign a guest recruiter. You're going to assign one primary recruiter, and then you can also assign a guest recruiter.
So if I needed to do that, I can click add, and then I've got my other roles here.
You don't get notified like my department chair.
I'm going to defer that to, well, I guess it's Jill, Nisha, Jill, yeah. When it comes to faculty, I want to be quick, I don't want to be quick to answer. Just in case I say something wrong. But next thing, so one thing, I can't remember if I said this out loud to everybody or just to a couple folks over here. We're all doing staff today just because we want one process to flow through to next week and so on. But next week, we'll talk more about faculty hiring. We'll talk about student hiring, recruiting, rather, student recruiting and hiring, faculty recruiting and hiring, and adjunct.
only need to assign roles if there's like a hiring committee. It's not always necessary.
You always need a primary recruiter.
Always need a primary recruiter.
Are you automatically, if you are the submitter?
No.
You have to
No.
decide yourself.
So the reason being, there could be one, so in other organizations, so again, not necessarily BYU, but other organizations, maybe there's 8 recruiters for the entire organization, and maybe they create requisitions for multiple different organizations, but they have their, I only have these, and so I'm going to assign myself as these, and those are the only ones that come up in my queue. So basically you can create for whoever you want to create for, but this security allows you that candidate management. So it allows you access to that candidate information. So it's just a way that Workday security is built. Yeah. Okay, any other questions on requisition? So once you hit submit, it's routing for approval. If you needed to make an edit, a couple things you can do. You can reach out to whoever it's going to next for approval or to post. I believe mine, and I can show you how to find that information. I just hit submit. It's taking a minute. So mine says up next, staff recruiting coordinator, and they are getting the task to post the job. So when I click details, if I expand this details and process section and click this process tab, this is how I can see exactly who it's awaiting action on, right? So I see Catherine, she's gonna help post all these jobs for us. So the question about, well, can I edit it? If it's going directly to a recruiting coordinator, and you need something fixed right away, I would probably just pick up the phone and say, I just submitted this to you. Can you send it back to me? Or if it's, I used the wrong job description, again, you all can work out can I email it to you and can you put it on there before you post or something like that.
Sorry, and what did you get? So if you've already gone out of that, how do you find that page?
Yep, absolutely. So I can go to my inbox, my tasks up here in the upper right. Okay. Then over here on the bottom left or kind of middle left, if you click archive, yep. So then this is everything that's either come through your queue or everything that you've initiated. So then if you go to the process tab, you can see all the different steps in the business process and where it might be hung up. All right. So I am going to keep my word. I think we are all tired. We are going to stop. We're going to be done by 4:30, which means we've got about 10 minutes. I am just going to flip through a couple of slides. And then what we're going to do is we are going to post all of your jobs for you. And we're going to have you apply as homework before next week. I promise it takes like 5 minutes or less. And we will make sure at the beginning of next week's session, make sure everybody, was able to apply successfully. You are welcome to stay here. I'm not leaving. So, but even if you want to stay here and apply for a job, we can definitely do that together. But again, I want to let's finish up these slides. And then for those that need to leave at 4:30 or who have had enough for today, we can make that happen. So once job requisitions are submitted, they can be edited, they can be frozen, they can be closed. That is all security that's only for our recruiting offices or our hiring offices. So if you needed to make a change, you would just need to work with that team to be able to make those changes. All right. So your recruiting coordinators will post jobs for all staff and student jobs rather. And then the faculty hiring offices will post faculty jobs. So again, that's why we're choosing hiring offices on that requisition. They will, based on the recruiting instruction that you indicated, they will select the job posting site to then post the job to. Okay. So the recruiting sites, this is a change. I believe currently you have 11 external career sites. Those have been reduced to 6. So we have BYU Careers, and that's for your staff, sports camp, and internal roles or internal jobs. You have faculty careers, continuing education, EFY, FSY, and student. So a couple changes. Internal jobs, or jobs that are posted internally and externally, but as long as we have that internal box checked, those jobs are, they will be faculty and staff employees can apply to those internally from Workday, and their worker profile will automatically populate the application. So applying for a job internally is now very, very easy. We definitely want to push folks to use that Careers Hub, which is an application that's in their drop-down or on their menu. When they select their job, I'm just going to flip forward. This is what that internal site will look like. They'll have all the different postings that are currently out there internally. They can use search features on the left-hand side. They can, again, view the details of that job, and then they can apply directly from here. They will be able to attach their resume, but their profile information from Workday, so their name, contact information, any job history, any work experience, skills, languages, anywhere where they have built out their worker or talent profile, and we'll talk more about that, I think, week 4 or week 5. That information will default into their application, just making it super, super quick and easy to apply to internal jobs. So pretty cool. The other thing, student jobs are now internal only. So only active students can apply. This will, there's options to cater for incoming freshmen, returning missionaries, that RMs, returning missionaries. So I'm getting some of the abbreviations, and there's some expedited screening needs. So really cool features for our student employee or our student workers the student jobs that we're trying to recruit for. Yeah.
So incoming freshmen, do they know if they're starting before they start a semester? Do they still have to be hired as non-students?
Ooh, that I don't. That's specific.
I do know, maybe Kathy knows, I do know they need to be active students, but when they become an active student and can be hired?
They want to start working, doing research
The summer before.
Yeah.
I think they can in the current place, at least take care.
Do we know?
At least in the current system, we can.
Because
you're looking for the- You're looking to their next credits in the fall, so that's okay.
Oh, so as long as they're registered.
Yeah, as long as they're registered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Oh my goodness, I can't move these slides forward. There we go. Okay, we talked about external career site, job application. So we're going to talk about this a lot more next week. So a little preview. So again, I'm going to show you a couple more things. I'm just going to show you how to find your job posting so that you all can create applicant profiles and apply as an applicant sometime this week or today if you want to hang out in this room. Again, external candidates, they're applying through that BYU career site. Internal candidates, we're gonna promote this over and over and over. We want to make sure all of our internal candidates apply internally through Workday. All right. Let me show you what you're going to do to apply as a candidate. So, can one of you post my job if you haven't already? Thank you. Okay. It's posted. Okay. All right. I forgot to say this yesterday. I forgot to say it again today, but that's okay. I'll show you how we're going to do this. We need to know, or we want to know, your job requisition number. If you don't, so anytime, once you submitted your job rec, you were given a job rec number. I personally think that is the easiest way if you know exactly what job requisition you want to get to, which in this case, finding our job posting link, we definitely do. So to find that, you can also just go to your My Tasks. This is exactly what we did just a minute ago when we were looking at the process history. And in your archive tab, mine went straight there because that's where I just was. It should be the first option in your archive tab, should be your job requisition task that you just submitted. And mine shows my job rec number is JR-259, and then it's got my job posting title.
Yeah, so write this number down, bring it next week, remember this job rec number.
Yeah.
This is yours. If you have a hard time finding it, let me know.
We can always help you find it again next week, but if you are able to write it down, super helpful.
Yeah.
Yep, so this is the one we just created. Next week, we're going to go more into recruiting, your recruiting hub, different ways you'll navigate through all of your job recs. But again, for today, we just want to get there quickly. So mine is job rec 259. Up in your search bar, you can use the prefix JR : and then just type in the number. And you should go directly to your job requisition, or it'll show up in your search results. There's my job rec. And then I can click that hyperlink and then go directly to the rec.
If you're not seeing it, click more categories on the left hand.
So it's JR : space, then the number.
Click more categories. On the left hand side, that's how you can see more specifics. Yeah, if you're not seeing something, always click more categories. It's on your filters for your search.
It'll be all right. It's the other colon on the right. Oh my gosh.
Everybody fine? I'm seeing a lot of people on the funnel. Okay. So again, preview for next week. Next week, we're going to learn all about this job rec, candidate management, how to move your candidates around. You'll get to play. I love the little funnel, shows you where your candidates are in the process. All of that fun stuff comes next week. Today, we just want to find the link to the job posting. So if you are on the same screen as mine for your job rec, go over to the job postings tab, which is over on the right. You'll see overview, candidates, details, orgs, qualifications. The last one is job postings. And then you should see the link to the external posting. So this is still in our training environment. So I think Workday is super cool in this way, where we have like these training external career sites as well. So this is not posted out on byu.edu for the world to see. This is just in our training environment. When you click that link, it's going to open in a new tab. The first thing you'll need to do, and again, all of these instructions are in your activity guide. So like I said, we're going to officially kind of end for those that are spent. It's 4:30. I want to do this later. You are welcome to go do this later. We'll still be in here. So if you want to stay and do it, totally fine. But make sure you just take a look at your activity guide. The couple things we want to make sure you do. So obviously the first thing you'll need to do is create an account. So when you click sign in, down here, you'll have to actually create an account. You get to be whatever alter ego you want to be, right? If you want to be one of your pets or a movie star or a Disney character, it doesn't matter. We've done it all. So email address, you'll put in an email address, password. Now, we want to make sure, for the most part, emails are turned off. We put X's in front of email addresses to make sure people don't actually get emails. However, I would, just to be safe, put in a very fake email that's like @test.com, right? Because we want to make sure, we were talking earlier, what if we put like sallysue@gmail.com and there was actually a sallysue@gmail.com? We just want to make sure there is no risk of anybody receiving an email. So I always use @test.com, your dog's name @test.com, whatever you want to do. Password, whatever you want to use, just again, write it down because you will need to log in as your candidate next week once we get to offer.
Write it down and bring it next week.
So what?
So you're gonna click sign in at the top right, and you're gonna create an account at the bottom. You're gonna click create account. Like if you were a new person, you saw this link, new candidate, and you're gonna go create a fake.
Yeah.
And put a fake name in before the email. So say.
So we have to sign in.
And then create an account. You're gonna create a fake candidate account. Sally Staff @test.com. Dog's name @test.com.
Oh, we'll post it. Okay.
And then we'll have you read it. No problem. Yeah. Can you see people?
So I've got an example up here. click create account, email address, just make sure you do @test.com, and then passwords. I'm sure everybody's experienced this with all of the other places you've had to create passwords. It needs to have a number and a letter and an uppercase and a lowercase and a special character and, you know, your dog's middle name and all those different requirements. So please just make sure you write it down so we all know what it is. So again, remember, you're welcome to stay, keep going. We're not leaving, so we'll be in here. We're happy to help. If you are leaving, all of these instructions are in the activity guide. So instructions on how to get to that external career site. So remember, we pulled up the job rec, we went to the job posting tab, we clicked the link, so that's all in here. You will need to, let's see, you're going to apply manually. It says in here, but when it comes to the screening questions, we want no one to get pushed out. So answer the questions as you would want an applicant to answer. Like you are, not been convicted of a felony, you are a member of the church, all of that. You want to make sure to answer appropriately. Hi, thank you. If you have any questions?
Lauren was gonna get my job posting, but.
What was that?
Lauren was getting my job posting.
Oh, perfect.
So I just refreshed it.
And how do we get to this side that we're just our office?
Yeah, yes, well,
Right now,
and go to the HR business partners office, and then there should be a link that says sign into Workday. Yeah. Either apply now, one or apply, or if you want to do it later. Yeah, just make sure you remember, have everything written down. Okay, perfect.
So are we able to access this remotely, like our desks that are?
Yes, so I've had a couple of questions. So really quick, if you want to do this back at your desk, or if you want to practice anything that we did today, you can do it as much as you want. You go to the training hub, which was at workday.byu.edu, and then training, and then that's how you'll be able to get to Workday. So yeah, you can absolutely get to Workday from the training site from your desk. And we'll try to make sure we get, it might not be till the end of the week, but we'll try to get an email out to everybody that came through this week with those reminders.